So, as traditions go, dear Lewis Hamilton, welcome to Ferrari.
Oh God. Yeah, on a brighter note, for everyone here, we have got a new intro jingle. And for all of you listening, something special, real quick. You're going to hear the full 30-second version of that intro now with all of the lyrics. And it may be the only time you ever hear it, because after that, we'll, for obvious reasons, just play like a 5 or 10-second version. Enjoy.
This is the Blatantly Biased Racing Podcast. Lewis is washed. Max is a newy merchant. Cola Pinto is God. Welcome to the Blatantly Biased Racing Podcast. Now here's a bald guy and some Indian.
I love that it ends with some bald guy and an Indian.
And an Indian. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so welcome back. I mean, how should we begin? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Welcome everyone. Oh, and a special bonus for you as well. That was the jazz version of the intro. The Taylor Swift version will play us out at the end. So you've got that to look forward to.
If you want one, if you want to hear it first, you can just scoop right ahead, or just hit subscribe.
Yeah. And if you hit subscribe and comment, I'll link you to a version. We'll upload a version of it for you. Yeah. Let's get into the podcast. How are you, man? You good?
I'm good. I know a few fans that are not happy.
Mm-hmm.
I know at least one country that is very happy right now. It's Australia. Apparently, they have a new championship hope, and he's doing quite well. Oscar Piastri.
I'd say Argentina's pretty happy as well at the moment.
Yeah,
we'll get to that.
I mean, they have bigger worries, right?
Nah, this is the best thing This is the best thing that's happened to them since they. I was going to say since they got the Falklands back, but yeah, never mind.
And with that, the 5 Argentinians have gone.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah. Bye, guys. Adios. Gracias. Yeah. So, what's first on our agenda? I know you sent me the list.
Let's talk about McLaren.
I was going to say in tradition, I just didn't read the list again. So let me pull that up.
I don't even bother.
I don't know why you still send it, but yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I still do. Just again, traditions. So let's talk about McLaren first. McLaren 1-2. Okay, sprint also happened. Some things happened in the sprint. Who cares?
Yeah.
Let's get to the main bit. Well, McLaren wins by more than half a minute. Was it half a minute?
37 seconds, I think.
Lovely. So McLaren wins the race by around 37 seconds. That's impressive.
Yep. That is basically...
Is the championship done?
No. You know why I don't think so is someone asked this as well. I just recorded for my channel and someone asked the same question. They were like, is the McLaren now as dominant as the RB19? Like, and therefore it's over.
That's stupid.
The point is, like, this was basically a confluence of things coming together where this is the first time that car was that dominant. Like, on average over 2023, they're the same as the RB19 in qualifying, because the RB19 was only 0.2 ahead in qualifying, but it was 0.7 on average ahead in race pace. On average, there were races where it was far more and races where it was less, but on average 0.7. This is the first time where McLaren has had that kind of advantage. For the rest of the season, it's been 2-3 at most, which is catchable. You need to get everything perfect to get those last 2 or 3 tenths. So 0.7 just means you can just pull away with ease, which is what they did as soon as Max let Lando past, which, as Lando said, he should have done earlier on. He could have maybe finished third, but we'll get to that later. Hi, Sai. Hey, just a quick interruption because we have a problem here, which is that for the last few months, we've been saying that if you're offended, subscribe. We've kind of been saying that. We've been saying if you're not offended, don't subscribe. It's the same thing. I'm sure you understand English if you're watching this, so you've got it, I'm sure. But turns out 60% of you have not been offended. And I just can't sleep. I don't know about you, Casual. I just can't sleep at night knowing that we haven't offended 60% of the audience. I think we need to start. You sleep okay? Well, I haven't, because there are 7.5% of you are Indians that haven't been offended, for example. I think we just need to fix this. So I'm just going to take a minute of your time to just make sure that everyone watching this is thoroughly offended. So I've written down a couple of things, casual, and you can tell me if you think this is offensive enough. So let's offend those Hindus and Indians first, quickly.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Oh, Jesus, no, don't. Don't do that.
Is that too offensive? No? Okay.
You don't live in India.
Yeah.
And I'm not a Hindu.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that offensive? So that is offensive then?
That's not only offensive, that's going to get me lynched. So please don't do that.
All right. Well, I'll think about cutting it out afterwards. Is there... By the way, 15% of you watching are British, and I'd just like to say that your sports cars now are so gay that the best selling model is the LGB GT. No? Offensive? No?
Maybe.
And of course, the 20% of Americans here, there's no need to insult you because you'll just do what you always do, which is show up after everyone else has done the hard work. So we'll probably cut that Hindu joke out, should we?
Yes.
Yeah? What I'll do is...
I'm still too young to die.
Okay. So... If you have been offended, please subscribe. If you haven't, then tell us how we can offend you and we'll subscribe you. And if a lot of Indian people subscribe, we'll maybe show you a behind the scenes of what that joke was at some point. Thank you, everybody. Now back to the podcast. Is the championship over? No. I think this is an outlier. I think for various reasons, like the McLaren and the Red Bull were basically on par in Jeddah. In Suzuka, there was very little between them. There's been other tracks where they've had the advantage, but it's been like 2/10. I think we need to see kind of Barcelona, what effect that has, first of all. And also other teams are going to bring upgrades, they're going to figure things out. The gap is not that big. And worst case, we've still got the two McLaren guys fighting each other, which I don't think is a done deal for Oscar, but he's looking good. Yeah.
I think the bigger worry is the gap. And it's not only the gap, it's the fact that just out of curiosity, I was going through the telemetry and everything, and it's something that is starting to become alarming. The kind of gap that McLaren had, you shouldn't be having this much of a gap after almost, this is the 5th year in the championship. That should not be happening, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the worry here is that, again, Red Bull is the only team that is complaining. I'm surprised why no other team is actually talking about it. The entire gap is because somehow or some way McLaren just does not overheat its tires, basically.
Yeah.
So how to explain this thing? Almost every top team, every team else, every other team, they've throughout a stint, what happens is they all go through the thermal degradation. There are two types of degradation. One is the rubber that continues to just wear out, and then there's the thermal degradation. Now the thermal degradation, how that happens is you lose the tire heats, and once it crosses a certain operating window, it tends to eat up the grip. That's generally how, as the stint progresses, that's what happens. Now, in case of every team, be it Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, or Alpine, or whoever, that is there. It exists, and it used to exist even last season as well, because that is a generic thing that happens. Every team tries to control it to a certain extent, but that is always going to be there.
Yeah.
For McLaren, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And Red Bull, I think they've not officially lodged a complaint, but they've been they've been at the FIA and pretty much complaining almost every
tire
minute.
Water, right?
The water thing was last season, but it does appear that they use the thermal imaging, and in the thermal imaging they use it for I think it was Bahrain and maybe one more race. The tires the tires and the brake discs, they just don't go to. I think you might have seen the thermal imaging we've seen in a few races. They used to show it when it was, I think, blue earlier. Then you get yellow. No, sorry, it's green, yellow, and red.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how it is supposed
They
to
keep
be.
it simple, right? So it's
They continue to have it either at green or yellow. It does
yeah.
not go beyond that. And once that happens, you're not having you're basically negating the thermal
You're getting
degradation.
negative deck basically, because
Yes, pretty
essentially
much.
you're you're running down the fuel levels faster than you're wearing at the tires, so you're technically getting
Exactly.
faster anyway,
Yeah,
because you're getting lighter. Yeah,
exactly. And this is something, how they're doing it is a bit of a question mark for almost everyone.
I
But even look, even in if you talk about physics and everything, even it made me think that, okay, how the fuck are they doing this?
well, I think
Because
the
it
thing
doesn't
is
make any
like,
sense.
yeah, like the thing is like it depends on what level it's at. I guess we need to see like obviously as you said, it is pretty impressive how they're doing it, but there's a couple of things they can do which we know they have done. One is that we know their brake duct system, their brake cooling system is the class of the field. So that could be helping in terms of like shedding a lot of that brake heat so that it's like even when the brakes are heating up, it's not like passing to the tires in time to cause huge issue. I think that's where they've been doing well. And that would also explain as well the fact that perhaps they're having issues with like not having the kind of brakes at the right temperature levels as well. Or brake issues basically. They brakes can't be too cold, but it could be causing issues with the brakes basically, because we know that's one of the issues that Stella brought up with qualifying. So neither of the drivers are very confident on the brakes. So it could be that the brakes are too cold or whatever. I don't know how that would work in my head.
They're not optimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one is we know that their suspension and their platform in terms of just overall control is now seemingly better than even Red Bull's. So if you bring those two things together, if they're getting the downforce like level across the car, they're basically not sliding around at all. They've got a platform that's completely controlled and they're not passing heat from the brakes to the tires. So it's not that they're kind of cooling the tires. It's just that they're not putting heat through the tires like everyone else is. So, and then Pirelli has obviously fucked the tires as well, because we've seen that with everyone basically being able to run the tires way longer than expected in general. So
Yeah, and that's also something we'll actually talk about, how they've actually brought a softer version this time around, and we still had a single, I think, one pit stop for everyone.
Yeah.
And even that was basically enforced because we had a VSC.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
they could have just run the medium till
Everyone was still going
kingdom
faster. So
comes.
it's like, while McLaren is the class of the field, it's not like everyone else is kind of going, oh, I'm out of tires in 15 laps and McLaren's still going at 30. Like everyone is kind of going, no, I can keep going on these tires. So I think it's just part of it is, I think what Red Bull are probably going to find out that there's no there, and it's just like they're controlling the tires better than everyone else. But yeah, I'd need to see the actual extent of it, like in terms of, actual tire temps. I doubt they have water in the tires or anything. Like
No,
I
it's
can't-
not water.
you know.
It's not water. I mean, it doesn't make any sense because if you're putting water, you're increasing the tire pressures, which is not ideal. Plus, you're adding weight, which is not ideal. You're
Red Bull
basically
tried to do it
outweighing
years
whatever.
ago as well, and they basically said it was almost impossible to do at any rate. Like, which would be an
It was
advantageous.
much earlier, right? It was in 2017 or 2018 when they first. Again, it was Rob Marshall who initiated it, so maybe that's why.
Which is why they're probably thinking
Yeah.
it's there. But like the thing for me is, if they're doing anything dodgy like that, like I just don't see how, because remember that like Pirelli hands over the tires at the racetrack, right?
It's not the tires, it's the brake drums. Basically, what happens is the brake drums, they absorb all the energy, they heat up, that heat goes to the tires.
But the point on that is like the only thing that would be the only thing I can think of where the FIA wouldn't be doing some very easy checks on it would be if they were injecting something into the tires. But there's cameras everywhere throughout the whole weekend.
The thing is, and again, it's simple mathematical model where you can see. So what they're, again, it was an article from Automotor and Sport, whatever it's called.
Automotor und Sport.
Yeah, the better explanation, the better pronunciation, I guess.
It's German.
So, AMUS basically. So they had the article out, and it was quite detailed. I think Michael Schmidt wrote it. It's just that, and again, Red Bull has a point. This level of cooling you cannot achieve just through air, and that is their argument. And how they are doing it is something, again, who knows what they are doing, but this So they found a solution, which is, look, if that is the solution that they have in place, it's very hard for any team to replicate. And they've tried. Red Bull has tried. Red Bull tried to bring, and they have probably brought a few modifications for their own rear brakes. It hasn't worked anywhere close to that, which is obviously going to be tough.
Yeah.
But if this is the advantage that they have, it's going to be very hard to beat them throughout the season, because
Yep.
it's not only this race. Barcelona is going to be, it will be baking in Barcelona for sure. And there are a lot of other tracks where tires being overheated is going to be a factor. Hungary, for one.
Hmm.
And makes it hard for teams to be very either what they can do is just bring the hard either what F1 can do just to have a championship is bring the hardest possible tires, because look, the softer tires are ultimately leading to a single stop. Then what difference is it going to make anyways? Yeah, otherwise McLaren
I
will just
still
run
think
away
they
with
should
it.
bring in the whole range and let the teams just have at it. So teams can either go really soft and really fast, or
It
really.
should ideally be the case, but the problem with that is it costs more money, and Pirelli, when it comes to money, is just
Well,
honestly,
sustainability as
look,
well.
Pirelli should
Yeah.
come under a lot of criticism, because they've basically escaped by producing just substandard tires in general. They don't have a wet weather tire. Let's be blunt about this
There is
fact.
no wet weather tire.
There is no wet weather
There's an
tire.
intermediate,
It's just
and that's it.
yeah. And the thing is, this level of mediocrity, either F1 doesn't question it or whatever the reason is, it's not a good look for the sport that whenever it rains, you have to just shut everything down. It doesn't look good.
Also,
And again, there was safety issues this time.
what happened
Agreed,
with
it's Miami. Yeah.
the things? What you call it, the cover, tire covers? Remember that whole thing? Because
Yeah,
the biggest issue was actually visibility.
wait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah, look, I can understand with Miami. I think you'll also be aware of it. When it rains in Miami, it's basically like Malaysia. We just can't.
just which is
It's-
fair.
It's nonsensical.
But it's
Yeah.
just weird that the wheel covers they just stopped talking about it. It's
It
like,
didn't
yeah,
work. They
Yeah.
trialed it twice or thrice in 2023 early, and it didn't work. And then they just canned the idea. And they're like, we'll see what happens in the next regulation.
I guess because most of it comes from the underfloor anyway now, right?
Yeah,
So
precisely.
just like giant vacuums throwing stuff up in the
Yeah,
air.
it's not the tires that are basically raising the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, moving to McLaren. Look, this kind of advantage, there are two things. First is in terms of the what you can say, the ultimate pace. I think it might be time that we actually start recognizing the fact that maybe McLaren is not the out and out fast car over a single lap.
Mm-hmm.
There have been 6 races and 3 poles have gone to Red Bull. And again, you can say Max is good, this, that. Understood, agreed. But you still need the car under you to produce those results.
The thing is, this is why it brings me back to the RB19 in some ways, which is the RB19 had on average 2/10 advantage in qualifying. Unfortunately, as I've said a million times, I'm sure people are sick of, that 2/10 is the part where that is the hardest, like 2/10 to extract. And you need a driver to extract every piece of it. And as I think you pointed out in a tweet, which was really good as well, it's like, it's not just a case of, oh, well, they could string these 3 sectors together. It's also like, if you do a really fast first sector, then your tires are going to be dying by the 3rd sector. And like, there's a load of different things. So stringing that all together and getting those last 2/10 are really difficult. I think the McLaren, personally, from what I've seen, is a 1/10 or 2 faster in qualifying, similar to the RB19. But I think what Stella said about the brakes and a few other bits makes sense as to why they're not, like, they don't have that last bit of confidence kind of coming in, whereas Max kind of has that confidence to just throw it in. But yeah,
You've
that is
seen
similar
the onboards, all 3 of them, Lando, Max,
Yeah.
and Oscar.
Yeah.
How much on the edge the McLaren is, even more than Red Bull, and it's obvious. Again,
Yeah.
Max has to hustle the car through the slow speed
It's
sections.
at different sectors, though, isn't it? Like, you
Yeah.
could see the Red Bull moves around a bit more than the McLaren.
Second and third
Yeah,
sectors,
but it is like when Stella said that, it was like, that is exactly what I've seen. You can just see how easy they have to go on the brakes at certain sections. They just don't have that confidence to kind of, where Max is just gunning into a corner and then flinging it. They're like real kind of easy, kind of Ving out the corner or Ewing out the corner a bit, and
Yeah.
being more careful around it. But yeah, I think that's exactly like 2023 for me in many ways, which is, like Max lost eight poles in 2023.
Yeah.
Similar thing where they are definitely stronger in the race
It's
than they are.
more, yeah. I would slightly disagree because I think for RB19 it was more a case of not getting the tires up to temperature as easily.
Yeah, there's different reasons for it,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
Here
yeah.
it's more a case of when the car is at the edge, McLaren becomes a bit too much of a beast to tame.
Yeah.
And if two world again, there are some foolish people on X who do not rate the kind of talents that Lando and Oscar are, and they're brilliant.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
those two drivers, both of them are saying that there is something that makes the car untamable, then there is something that makes the car untamable.
Look,
As simple
for
as
as
that.
much shit as Lando gets, Lando is one of the best qualifiers on the grid. And I say that because time and time again, I saw Lando in a midfield car get like second row or first row throughout his career. You know,
Austria 2021 in a McLaren before these regulations, he finished I think second in the race, and he started on the front row alongside Max.
Yeah.
When Red Bull and Mercedes were just miles ahead of the entire field.
Yeah.
So it's easy to just again Lando makes it easy for people to shit on him. Understood. It's more a case of people trying to find reason to shit on him because
Yeah.
he's very belligerent in the way he's going about things now, and
yeah.
it's understandable to a certain extent. It also brings on the haters, and look,
Yeah.
Oscar is going to get his haters as well very, very soon.
Oh, like this,
The
the
more
people
he
who,
battles with Max,
the people,
the more he'll have
Max
them.
fans who hate Lando right now and are kind of going, see, I think what's happened is they've put themselves in a box for a little while because they were like, no, it's because we hate Lando. It's nothing to do with Oscar. So for a little while now, you're getting this, no, Oscar's fine. And it's like, yeah, let's see how long that lasts. Like, I give it 6 more races max. Absolute max.
I give it 2 races where Lando and Max and Oscar have their.
What's going to happen is it's going to be another couple of Jeddas where Oscar's going to just like completely push Max
Either
off
ways,
track.
I think look, Max realized in this race, and maybe correctly or incorrectly, that he might be just an outside player. So
Yeah.
he's there to maximize everything and get
He
whatever
also
he can.
what's really interesting. Sorry, just to end on the other point first, though. Yeah, I think like these are 2 very good qualifiers, and I think Oscar now is the reason I think it is just that last couple of tenths. Or like that unease and as you said on the limit is really difficult is I think Oscar has basically I still don't think he's as fast at his peak in this, like if they were both comfortable in the car as Lando, but he's basically there, like it's within a tenth I think, and Oscar doesn't make kind of silly mistakes, he just kind of pulls everything out. So if Oscar and Lando,
Well, Oscar did make a silly mistake of sorts.
but I
in
mean
qualifying.
generally speaking he's not like
In
not as,
qualifying.
not as
It's
often as Lando. Let's
6
be honest.
qualifyings, what's the head-to-head right now?
3-3 probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I assume so. I've had some
And
Oscar
if you-
fans tell me it's a washout. I'm like, it's just not.
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
And that's the whole thing. The thing is, every mistake that Lando makes, it gets blown way out of
Amplified.
proportion.
Yeah.
But it's also Lando doing that. So
But it's
not
also,
even-
I think the problem is that Lando's mistakes tend to have much bigger consequences than Oscar's, like all of the time. You know, like Oscar makes a small mistake, maybe loses a position, gets back on it again, gets his head down. Lando makes a small mistake, ends up 6th trying to come back through the field. It's like just,
Precisely.
you know, all of the stuff.
So
but,
let's talk about that.
yeah.
Let's talk about Lando Norris and his mistakes or whatever you want to call it. How would
I guess
you-
just the whole fight between the 3 of them, really, right? And
the entire. I think. Let's.
we had
touch on
20
sprint as
great
well.
laps of racing, right, before it got boring again.
Yeah, and then we had Ferrari. Thanks, Ferrari.
Yeah.
I would have slept if that had not happened. Honestly.
Oh, God.
Thank you for that.
Ferrari's going to be beaten by Williams next year. I'm almost sure of it. But yeah, anyway.
We'll get to that as well.
Yeah.
First of all, Lando Norris as a whole throughout the Miami GP weekend, how would you rate it? What's your takeaway from the entire Saturday, Sunday, Friday thing?
Like, genuinely, I think he did. This is the thing. I think, like, he did as good a job as he can. I think those, like, as usual with Lando now, as I said, it's just like those small mistakes that, again, as you point out, we see Oscar make these as well, but just for whatever reason, Lando seems to be hit by them far more consequentially. And I think then the problem is as well that he doesn't bounce back as quick as Oscar does. You know, it's kind of, he gets in his own head. But look, in terms of just his overall weekend, I think he did as good a job as he could. I think he's trying to prove stuff to himself still, and I think he needs to fucking stop that. Like, I think the biggest thing for me is that trying to go around the outside of Max was always going to end the way it did. And I think that was, as much as I kind of like the fact that he's getting aggressive and trying to do it, it's also like, dude, stop. He's doing it because I feel like he's trying to prove things to other people. Whereas an Oscar in that situation would have been like, no, I'll back out here. I've got the pace. I'll get him at the next turn, which Oscar did. So I'm not even saying he would have. He did do that at various points. So yeah, like in terms of the actual pace and like getting on top of the car, it feels like Lando is kind of getting that now, where he's getting on top of the car. In qualifying, I know he didn't do a great job in the sprint, right? I can't remember now at this stage.
No, it was. I think both of them were either. It was.
Was it Antonelli then Oscar,
It was
Lando?
Antonelli, Oscar, and Lando within a tenth. So
Right,
it wasn't
okay.
much.
So yeah, so they're he seems to be kind of getting on top of the car, and it does seem to be that now both of them are at the issue that we discussed earlier. I think he did a really good job. I think it's just, I do think there's two sides to it as well, though, right? I think it's one, Lando needs to stop thinking about what other people think, which he constantly comments on. It's like, just stop. Like, you're a fucking Formula One race winner. Like, why do you care what some cunt says on Twitter? Like, just stop. Like, relax. The other thing is, I do think, and I know certain people, hello Sai, are going to hate this, but I do also think Max races Lando a little bit differently to how he races Oscar, because I could see at points when Oscar was coming on Max, Max was being a bit more careful about where he put the car when Oscar was coming around. And when Lando was coming in, it was like, oh, fuck you, don't care. Because he knows Lando's just going to jump. And I think he knows Oscar's going to be a bit more kind of like, no, we'll play this game if you want.
Do you think in the long run, Max still thinks that if there's a title battle, it's going to be between him and Lando?
Maybe he thinks, maybe because he knows that Lando is a very fast driver. I think that's going to change in the next couple of races, though, and this is probably the starting point of that really changing, because I think in Jeddah he basically blamed the FIA, and I think now he's seen that like Oscar put him, like that move that Oscar did, where Oscar clearly moved one way, made him go real late braking on the inside, and Oscar literally, the moment he locked up, Oscar just backed out and kind of just turned slowly and then took him at the next turn. I think he will start saying, okay, like Oscar's playing the game here. And he mentally, it's not easy to get on top of Max. And Oscar mentally had no problem doing it. Like even when Oscar was talking about it afterwards, he was like, I knew where Max would go. So I was just pressing him, just waiting for my time. And it wasn't like just being a prick. He was just like, that's what I did. And I think that will start changing. I do think you're right. At the moment, he's thinking more about Lando. But I think that'll start to change now. And it's going to be interesting as well, because if this was Lando 30 points ahead and Oscar didn't exist, I would say Max would still play the game of like, well, let's just crash out because I'll gain the points up somewhere else. But I think when he starts to realign there with Oscar being 30 points ahead, I think he knows he can't play that like chicken game with Oscar. I think it's not going to work with Oscar. So that's what's going to make it interesting now. That could also be where Lando wins the title, though. Because Oscar and Max could start playing silly games, and it only takes one DNF to really swing things. 25-point swing is still big. So
Yeah.
I think this is going to be an interesting season.
I think if Lando looks back at Miami in general, I think he'll be pleased.
Mhm.
Again, this might sound a bit weird, but I think he'll be quietly confident. And what he'll be quietly confident about is, first of all, when the sprint came, Lando wasn't comfortable with the car throughout Friday P1. It was quite obvious. It looked like Oscar had around three tenths in general on Lando. Then when it came to the final qualifying lap in the sprint shootout, the gap was nothing. Then you went into the sprint race. I first thought that Oscar had Lando's number, the way he was pulling out. Then it was actually something that veterans like Lewis has done a lot of times, where it appeared that Lando had been saving his tires, and he said afterwards that I wasn't pushing to beyond a certain point. Yeah,
You could tell. They got to the end of that stint and Lando was just closing in really fast on.
Look, one more lap and Lando would have got him.
That's why
By
when
the way,
everyone said,
if
it's just the
Oscar had
safety
not-
car.
By the way, if Oscar had not actually jumped the that particular section before that long straight. If you remember, just before they pitted, a lap prior,
Yeah, he
Oscar made a
jumped the
mistake.
because well, I think they
That
said it was because of
wiggly
the
section.
debris. Obviously, all the Oscar fans said it was because of the debris. But if you watch the onboard,
No,
he went
there's no
wide. He had
there's
to,
no
yeah.
debris.
There was a bit of debris, but no one was having problems going past
Yeah,
it. So
exactly. He overshot the corner, and
yeah.
the and it was 3 seconds the gap that Lando just easily. I think within 3 laps he just shook,
Yeah.
completely ate it up. What that showed is Lando had the pace with him. He won the. I think. Look, if things had gone the other way, Lando would have been P4 before because Max would have jumped him and Lewis would have jumped him.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. Luckily, he got the win. Again, it's just a 1 point or 2 point swing.
This is
big.
what I was saying earlier as well. Like in
Yeah.
ultimate peak pace, I still think Lando is the faster driver. Because
And
even if you
by
look
the
at the
way,
race
yeah,
as well, it was the same thing. If Lando wasn't stuck behind Max for so long, he would have been able to. I don't know whether he would have passed him, but he would have been right on the back of Oscar.
I think there's a big thing there that I think a lot of people are actually forgetting one thing. When Lando jumped Kimi Antonelli, the gap between Lando and Oscar was around 4.5 seconds, something like that. By the time Oscar overtook Max, it was Lando was in the DRS zone. He had just reached, and again,
Yeah.
kudos to Oscar to make it happen that very moment because Lando was just steaming in.
Yeah.
Now the 10 seconds that he lost to Max, it was basically again similar things. Again, Max was extra defensive when it came to that. It was far more than how he was with Oscar. Maybe a bit of strategy. Okay, we'll get to
And
that bit
also
as well. Why he was doing
Lando
that.
took an extra go on what he should have because he went
Yeah,
wide.
exactly. So from 10 seconds, he ate up. By the time we had the checkered flag, he ate up around 6.5 seconds
Yeah.
on Oscar. And this was, by the way, on tires that had been chewed up quite a bit by battling
Yep.
Max. Lando was a faster driver, and that was again Jensen Button touched on it where he said that for a change this time around, I did not see a dejected Lando, and he also pointed out to something similar. He said that look, there's one thing people are not keeping an eye on. Once Lando jumped Max, it was a 10-second gap. By the end of the race, it was around 3.5 or 3 something. And it's not because Oscar was managing. Both of them were exchanging purples for
Yeah,
a
yeah,
long
yeah.
time. And then ultimately it was Lando just eating into the gap.
This is where
I
I
think
think
Lando knows that he's the faster driver. And what we are slowly getting to a point is if Lando gets a hang of the car, which he still hasn't, which was quite obvious again in qualifying on the final turn, he had a slight movement, which basically cost him pole position. Once he gets that, I think that's when things would become a bit more interesting because then we'll see the real gulf in pace between the two. And that's when Oscar will have to up his game.
yeah.
We'll see what
Look,
happens then.
I think the problem for me with Lando right now though is the only way it changes is if Lando gets back to his like full on qualifying performances, for example, and he's starting ahead of Oscar every weekend. Because if he does that, we know a lot of these tracks, that's it. In the dirty air, you're not going to be able to pass. You know,
Imola.
yeah,
Next
exactly.
race.
Lando will just take off. That's where Lando will win a championship. But if it stays this close, or if Oscar can stay kind of, if it's back and forth, I think the where Oscar has the upper hand is just Oscar is just ruthless when it comes to like taking the
Clutch
position,
moments.
and Oscar just doesn't get in his head at all. So it doesn't matter what happens. It's like I genuinely feel like we could get a situation in Imola where Max and Oscar bash into each other and crash, and Oscar might let out a bit of that was a bit of a dick move, and that'll be it. He'll just move on with it. And even Max in that situation will be shouting over the radio, and Oscar seems to be the guy just going, "Oh, that fucking happened," And I think that is so important over a qualify or a championship like this, especially when it's going to be so tight. Where if Lando has these issues, you can see it takes him a while to like bounce back, and he goes through it over and over. I think people write off Lando so quickly, and they shouldn't do. I think he is one of the best drivers on the grid, but in a championship like this, that cool-headedness could make...
Very important.
Yeah.
It'll make a lot of difference, right? I agree with you. My worry, I don't think I'll say worry for Lando at this stage. I think for me, the bigger thing is I think he needs to stop focusing on Max and he needs to
And what
start
people on
switching
Twitter
focus.
fucking think as well.
And he needs to start focusing on Oscar. Because look, the gap is 16 points, which is nothing. Honestly, it's nothing.
No.
He wins the next couple of races. And look, Lando wins a couple of races, the whole dynamics, they actually take a turn. And
Yeah.
that's where probably someone like maybe someone like a Max would, just ramp things up from there, where it will be like, okay, race win, pole, race win, pole,
But
race win.
this is where it
Just-
becomes like a Kimi Räikkönen 2007, right? Where you get like the McLarens constantly taking points off each other, and the consistent guy in the background is just kind of like, okay, I'll get some goes here and there, and over the course of a season, it's 1 point. It's like that's literally
how
2007.
Exactly. So look, if you're first of all,
When Alonso beat Hamilton basically over the course of a season.
yeah, of course he did. I don't know. I don't think there's anyone who can deny that. Anyone sensible
They
enough.
finished even. I think that's the most important. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, just the collision, the whole thing on the first lap. Do you have what? Again, I took it as a racing incident, and
Yeah. Well,
again,
I mean,
Max did veer right.
yes,
But he was well within his right too.
The thing is, he veered to the right, and he was out of control a little bit. There under the letter of the law in F1, if Lando had been a little bit further ahead, like literally if he had had his front wheel alongside Max's front wheel, that would have been a penalty for Max because he was out of control and Lando had earned the right to be there. But he didn't. So Lando had no right to be in that position. Therefore, it doesn't even matter if Max had just completely flung him into the wall. It was Max's corner. There would have been no... FIA probably would have given a penalty because they say they don't take consequences into account. Yet every time they do take fucking consequences into account.
Precisely.
It
It would have happened, by the way. And again, look, I don't fault Lando on that thing because he saw a gap and he went for it. When it comes to something like this, it's basically instincts.
Yeah.
So maybe a racing instinct kicked in. It didn't work
honestly,
for him.
I was quietly impressed that he actually went for the gap. It was a...
Yeah.
It was a
It
pretty...
was there. It was there.
But it was also
Max
a
overshot.
ballsy move to do that on Max as well. So it
And
didn't
you need
work.
a compliant driver
It didn't
on the
work
other side,
out.
right?
It didn't work out. And I think if Lando had said this instead of what he said afterwards, because what he said afterwards was, if I don't go for those moves, everyone calls me out.
Yeah,
if
that
I
was
do,
rubbish.
If I do go for
Yeah.
these moves, everyone calls me out. Stop taking what
cares?
everyone else is saying into account. If he had have said, well, if I had gotten the move, it would have been, I would have got the win. If I didn't get the move, I didn't get the win. I ended up in second either way, so it was worth the try. That's the kind of where it's like, yeah, fuck it, that makes sense. Max would do the same thing. If Max saw that gap, he would have gone for it as well. The difference is Max probably wouldn't have moved out of the way and they both would have crashed into the wall. But, that would have been the difference between the two, which is why I'm saying I think Max knows that about Lando. He can take those risks.
Yeah.
I think if Oscar had been in that position, I don't know if I think Max is a little bit more cautious about moving to the right.
I don't know. I think it's instinct. I think for Max, it's instinct. On the first lap, look, by the way, let's touch on this. Lando talk. I think we have a very divergent view on this. Lando said that Max was not racing smartly, etc., etc., and that cost him the podium. What's your view?
I think I disagree with him in terms of but that's how we should go racing. It's, a racing driver who's winning world titles doesn't give an inch, and Max doesn't give an inch. I think that's one of the areas where I say that Lewis, for example, isn't as good as Schumacher because he's right. If that was Lewis in Max's position, Lewis probably wouldn't have fought so hard because he would have thought about the racing as a whole.
Didn't.
Yeah, they probably would have gone, right, well, I'll fling back. These guys are Oscar's already 10 seconds up the road or he's getting up the road straight away. These guys are going to beat me over the race. I'll fling into line, get an easy third, save the points and come back at them next week. That's what a Lewis would have done. But I also don't rate Lewis as high as Michael Schumacher because Schumacher and Senna would never give that inch and that's what made them great. They lost some points because of it, but they usually win because of that attitude. So I disagree with Lando there in terms of, that is how you should go racing if you want to be just an unforgiving, ruthless racing driver. However, Lando is technically correct. Like, Max would have got an easy third if he had have just realized, okay, look at where Oscar's gone. Lando's eventually going to get me. So I'm not getting second place here. So there's no point fighting this. And if Max had have thought like that, he would have passed George easily, even with the VSC. So
because the gap would have he wouldn't
he wouldn't have
the
lost
amount
like
of
10
time
seconds.
lost. Yeah.
He would have, like, even with the VSC, he would have been ahead. And like with the VSC happening, George and them came out of the pits at the same time. So even if he had have stopped fighting like 2 laps earlier and just said, right, fuck it, I'm not winning in this one, he would have come out a second or so ahead of George, and that would have been that done. So Lando is technically right. I don't agree that's the way we should go racing, but my point that I made that got a lot of people angry on Twitter was he is technically correct in terms of if the race played out exactly. Then someone said, yeah, but if that happened, then the race would have changed. I think it was Philip. I'm like, yeah, but not really. Like, we can only play it on what actually happened. We can't go, oh, well, if Max did this, then this would change and this would change. And it's like, no, we're just playing on what actually happened here. Max technically would have came in third. And he had already lost 5 points in the sprint. So it probably would have been a good idea to gain a couple more points in the race. But Max doesn't race like that, and I love him for it. It's exciting.
But there's also the other fact, right?
The mental attitude.
Why Max actually was racing like a maniac, to be honest. He look, even he doesn't go to these extents. He was eating up his tires like anything. Even when he was racing Oscar, he was doing that. So the reason why it was actually happening, I think a lot of people missed out on it. By lap 15, it was expected to rain.
Yeah, that's a good point
And
as well. Yeah.
they were, and look, everyone knew this thing. As soon as it rained, that was done. Race was over. You were not going to get another lap. You were maybe going to get a restart or red flag or something.
Yeah.
Highly likely you would not even restart, because
Maybe because if it's
they have this
thunderstorms.
thing. In case of thunderstorms or something, there's this Miami law which comes into the picture.
It's
You
just because
cannot
it's so
race.
dangerous. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So that was something that was there in the mind, and that is precisely what even GP. Look, I think you remember GP came on team radio and he said that just stay on the inside, make him work hard for it.
That was with was that with Oscar
with
first?
That was Oscar.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs to tell me it was with Lando. So it was precisely because of that, because in the back of Max's mind, he knew that around lap 14, 15, it's going to start raining. And once it does, and okay, by the way, no rain, no fucking rain.
Yeah.
What a bitch. So
yeah, look, I agree that there's
exactly, that is one of the reasons. I think what Max was trying to do was he was trying to hold on for his dear life, to be honest.
Yeah.
Until lap 15, and when it starts to rain, and then everything is just gone, and he'll take the win and go home. That was his approach. When it didn't work, I think by the time it was lap 20 or something, when he realized that rain is not coming, he just let Lando go. That he's like, there's no point wasting any more.
I don't know though, because maybe it felt like at one point that just he couldn't hold on anymore. The pace difference was just too much anyway. So I don't know if it's as, like, he just let him by. I think it was like, this is done now. Like, he couldn't defend any longer because Lando basically just sailed by at one point, and
it was him just letting go, right?
Nah, I think he just didn't have the pace to fucking even get to the apex on time. So
I mean, maybe
because it had happened like just before that as well, and the two of them had basically pushed each other off track.
Yeah. On the next lap,
Lando had sailed past at the same time as well, but then Lando also just braked too late basically. But if Lando Lando did the exact same thing the next time, and Max did kind of try and come back through, but it was done by that point. So I don't know if he let him past. I think that's a very Max Verstappen fan thing to say, isn't it?
Well, Lando said so.
Yeah. But Lando says a lot
Lando is a Max Verstappen fan.
Lando is a Max Verstappen fan. We know that.
He is, though,
Yeah. He's the ultimate Max Verstappen fan.
Yeah, and that's, again, by the way, he flipped the bird to Max, and the entire fandom went into a meltdown.
It's so
funny.
This is
That's
just
so
going to
funny.
happen. They're just basically the excuse from Verstappen fans is, it's just Lando. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I can't wait until it's Oscar because it's just like, just prove your point once again. This is
Seriously.
just always the case. Hamilton fans were exactly the same before as well.
Yeah,
It's
a
just like,
lot of it.
it's the
Everything
excuse
is
of,
copied.
oh, it's just the excuse of like, oh no, it's their personality. I don't like them because of the way they race or things they say. And it's like, no, you don't like them because they're beating your person. Like, that's it. It was the
Yeah.
same with Hamilton fans. Like, they had no problem with George until George started beating Hamilton, and all of a sudden it was like, George is an absolute prick. And it's like, yeah,
Wait for
okay.
Charles.
Yeah. You
It's
know
the
why they
same
liked
story.
They liked Bottas because Hamilton had an easy go with Bottas.
Yeah, a little puppy, a little compliant teammate who just Lewis used to give a few wins as freebies, just take them
Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
happy with it. Yeah, anyway. Yeah. By the way, Red Bull and the way the whole thing is going to. Personally, I was impressed to a certain extent with Red Bull, especially in that first sector. The car was on
I
rails.
was going to say not in the sprint, obviously.
In the sprint, it was okay. No, yeah, the operational thing, yeah, happens. Okay, it's happening a bit too
Oh,
much.
but they
It
made a
shouldn't.
lot of mistakes. Up until the race, they made a lot of mistakes.
Like what?
Well,
Am I missing?
not sending Yuki out in time for one.
Oh, gee.
You know, when's the last time you've seen
Yeah.
a Red Bull driver not make it to the line? It's been a
Yeah,
while.
that's
Like,
new. But again, I think 5
and
or
then
6
not
drivers
looking
missed
that
out, right?
Antonelli was passing in the pit lane. Like, just
Yeah, that was. It's
Yeah.
a bit of a. I think we talked about this thing that a lot of key members have left. So
And
Red Bull is still
also-
on the.
sorry, I just remembered something as well. Also, they were very lucky that he didn't get an impeding penalty as well for Stroll.
To Lance. I don't know. I think on the straight there
It
is.
doesn't. He had to literally. He was on the racing line in the braking point. Like
Lance?
No, Max. At the braking point, he was on the racing line.
It was still a bit of a gap, right?
It doesn't matter, but he was he was on the racing line
Very
at
close.
the braking point,
Yeah.
to the point where Lance had to actually come off the racing line
Yeah.
to go around.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen someone not get a penalty for that. Like, that's insane.
I've seen.
I don't.
Lewis.
Yeah, okay. But generally speaking, that was why I was laughing. I was like, "Oh, the FIA is biased against everyone now trying to help Max." MBS has jumped in, but no, I'm joking. But it was just a very odd call. But there was a lot of odd calls from the FIA this weekend, especially
Which is
especially
generic.
through sprint quality. They seem to just not be watching at all.
Yeah, that was so weird. Again.
Because it was like literally sprint quali 2. They're like, oh, something happened in sprint quali 1. We need to go investigate after
Yeah,
sprint. It was like,
what the fuck's going on?
it's like, what are you doing?
And they don't even have F2 and F3 to even focus on. You had just
Yeah,
one race. Just focus on it and do a good job.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It was very strange, yeah. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Anyways,
But yeah, Red Bull
coming
seemed
back to
odd this
the
weekend.
Red Bull, because for me, that and it looks very, very impressive in that first sector. In the fast speed sections, the way the car handles, at least not only with Max, even Yuki seems to be quite comfortable now. He still has to nail the final thing when it comes to the Q3 lap. That is where he's struggling. Once he starts doing that, I think we'll see probably a bit of a better performance from him. Tracks like Silverstone, Spa, maybe Imola. I think Red Bull is going to be pretty strong in these races. Again, I don't know what happens with the tire deck, but the way that car moves and just that kind of ability and that kind of agility in those fast speed sections is rare, and they have the edge on McLaren when it comes to that, at least in qualifying. And once you have that, it should, at least in some races, you. My point is, Max is going to win a few races this season. Whether that helps him win the title is still a far cry.
Did-
But there will be few races where it's a bit like it's very clear. By Saturday, we'll know Max is winning.
Yeah.
I think I think
There's-
what Red Bull showed in the first sector was that, at least in my
The
opinion.
thing that Red Bull and Max fans should hold on to is that this was an outlier. Like, in Jeddah, the Red Bull was on par with the McLaren for the entire weekend. In Suzuka, there was probably a tenth or two in it, but Max is able to kind of handle that. So I think like this was a weird race. Look, if McLaren starts getting to a point where every weekend they're winning like this, it's done for Max. But it hasn't been that way all season. Like I saw a lot of people giving like, oh look, this is proof that McLaren's actually been a second ahead the whole time. It's like, shut up. If the McLaren was a second ahead in Suzuka, no amount of dirty air was stopping Oscar and Lando from just sailing past. Like when you've got a second advantage, you need to work like Max did this weekend to keep anyone behind. Exactly. And look how hard Max was working to keep them behind. He didn't have to do that in other tracks. So like, it's not that.
And kudos to him. Look, he provided the entertainment throughout whatever was going on.
It was impressive. That was Alonso level defending, in my opinion. And Alonso's like an immense defender. Like he's just incredible.
Oh, by the way, talking about Alonso for just a second, he's not washed. Again, he took the Aston Martin, which is the slowest car, to what was it? P9, P10 in sprint quali. Almost got points, but thanks Liam Lawson for being, just a complete idiot. Again, by the way, Alonso crashes out, Stroll scores points. This is basically the theme of the 2025 season, which is hilarious. But
maybe that's in his contract, Maybe he's
they
like,
paid
look,
Lawson's.
We brought Newey over. We're going to give you a championship in 2026, but can you just do me a favor and please make Lance look good this season?
Yeah.
And Alonso's just like, yeah, sure, 20 million, I'll do it. Like,
But again, even if that is the case, the amount of walloping that Stroll gets in qualifying and usually in races as well, Alonso is maybe not keeping his part of the deal. So
yeah. Well, no, but Alonso's genuinely been impressive, but unlucky this season. Especially when you consider just how fucking slow that car is. Like, it's ridiculously slow.
It was so funny that, Alonso made one mistake. He spun in the race. He was on hard tire and he spun.
That was weird as well. I think it was Jolyon Palmer on the commentary just went, that was a very un-Alonso move there. And it seemed
just
like
one move and everyone went. Alonso is washed. I'm like,
but it also didn't seem like a mistake as such, because it's not like he like flung in and lost it. The back just kind of slid out. That felt very much to me like yeah, because remember Carlos Sainz had the same thing under safety car. A bit of like torque kind of just went up. That seemed like a kind of, because I didn't even hear the wheel spin or anything. It just kind of like went. It was almost like there was just a second of like boom, and the engine just.
Yeah.
And they're both running the same engine, Carlos Sainz and him. So
Mercedes,
maybe it was just some weird torque, kind of jump.
Talking about some weird talks, let's talk about Ferrari.
Well, I hope Mercedes fans who got pissed at us last year saying good luck at Ferrari. Well, actually, I hope you're having a bad time. Yeah, fuck you. No, just...
you don't have to hope. You can just...
Yeah.
They are... Look,
remember when they all said they can't wait for Lewis to go to a serious team?
And they went to Ferrari.
We kept laughing at that last year repeatedly. Serious team. He's going to Ferrari. What are you talking about? How have Ferrari done this? This is impressively bad.
Yeah. I mean, it was a bad weekend already for them because they were even slower than Williams.
But you have to work hard to be this bad.
They somehow made it worse. They were fighting for P6 and they acted like they were fighting for the win. First of all, I didn't understand the level of hustle and aggression when it came to Lewis that, okay, I'm going to go and fight. And again, his post-race interview was, please let me fight the McLarens. I'm like, buddy, you're not fighting the McLarens. You would have been fighting the Mercedes. And even that was the slower one. You're in P8.
They were barely fighting the Williams.
Yeah. It's... And the funny thing is, Leclerc saw that, and I think even Leclerc was a bit bemused. And when he was told that, okay, let him pass, like, for what? What are we even fighting for here? P8? Sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
And the biggest comical thing was Leclerc just stayed in his DRS throughout and nothing.
It's like, we're not going anywhere. What are you talking about? Like, yeah. It was really funny. Like Jolyon, because I've stopped watching international feed. I just watch F1 live now because Alex Jakes and Jolyon Palmer. Alex Jakes and Jolyon Palmer are brilliant. And we didn't have to hear anyone say anything about Daddy Verstappen or whatever.
Jesus Christ. Oh, God. Oh, God.
I didn't hear it.
David Croft, what are you doing?
Was it not Martin Brundle?
He's everyone's daddy or something, he said when Max got pole position.
Did Brundle not say it? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
He has some self-respect left. I think Brundle would have said that. It's
I don't
David
know.
Croft. It
Yeah.
was. I think he's the daddy of everyone.
Oh, I
I
don't
don't.
know. I
What the
didn't.
that
I didn't
that.
hear it. I just saw people quoting it on Twitter.
Yeah,
So I was
and
like, "What
like,
is
what
going
the
on?"
hell is going on?
I heard it was Croft or Brundle, which I was like, "That's really interesting from Brundle because Brundle doesn't normally,
No.
Crofty
Yeah,
says some weird shit sometimes."
yeah. He said
But yeah,
Max
Jolyon
trumps
Palmer
Lando
basically
or
was like,
something. Yeah.
"Oh, Lewis is getting annoyed here," and Jolyon foreshadowed that perfectly because he was like, "This is the kind of thing though. When you pass, you need to get like 4 or 5 seconds up the road to prove it was worth it."
Yeah.
And then it was like 3 laps later, Lewis is nowhere, and it's like, well, I guess that's that then. Like you can't say like I'm so much quicker. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Where's this pace you have? What are you talking about? And it was very obvious that it was just like a tire offset, and that was that. Like,
The point is, why create such hurry when you're fighting for P7, P8,
yeah, like
P6?
if
It
it
would have
was
been a very simple thing, by the way. It was obvious when Leclerc was ahead. Okay,
if it was
Lewis was right.
P5 and P4, and Lewis was like,
Or a
I can
podium or
get I can
something,
get a
yeah.
podium. Let me buy.
Yeah.
Fine. But as you said, it was like
For P6,
you're not catching.
Ferrari created a PR disaster for P6, and they didn't even get the P6. It was.
Maybe
I've
they've
not
got a new
seen.
tea sponsor. I haven't thought this through.
That was beautiful. Honestly, that was beautiful.
Lewis's
And it-
radios were good, to be fair, because when he said like you're
Oh,
gonna let me
God.
pass, it's like, oh, we're talking about it now, and he's like, have a tea break while you're at it. And I did one of the things I genuinely I did love was when Ferrari said 1.5 seconds or Sainz is 1.5 seconds behind, and Lewis said, "Oh, do you want me to let him pass as well?" I was like, that was fair play, Lewis. That was fucking funny. But it was also, as you said, it was like, why? Like, you're a 7-time world champion. Like, why are you making such a big a deal over this? Like, you're not
don't get
getting
it.
close. Yeah, it was strange.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
And, oh, there's
I'm
one
guessing
man.
he thought he'd be fighting for a championship this year. And he's fighting a
Even I
Williams.
thought, at least Leclerc would be fighting for a championship, but I forgot it was Ferrari. Oh God, Ferrari! Why?
A lot of Hamilton fans owe Vettel an apology. Can I just point that out?
I was about to say that there's one man who'd be sitting home and who would be watching this exchange between Lewis and the team and just laughing his ass off. It's Sebastian Vettel.
Sure.
He knows. And the funny thing is there are a lot of Lewis fans who are like, what is going on at Ferrari? I'm like, where the fuck have you been for the last
This was
15
why it
years?
was just
This
so
is
funny.
Ferrari.
It
How
was
is
so
this
funny
different?
last year. Yeah, like this is why it was so fucking funny last year. When we were sitting here getting people bashing us, going, "You're just racist because you don't believe in the sabotage thing, and you wait and see when he goes to Ferrari." And we're just like, just the funniest sentence all last year was, "I can't wait for Lewis Hamilton to go to a serious team," and it's just every time it's like, "What are you talking about?" Like this is why you know what. This is just from me in a way, and I'm sorry, Lewis fans, but it is kind of a bit of redemption because for years I've said, no, look, Vettel was brilliant. It was just by 2017, Ferrari had broken him. And you know
2018,
what?
I'd say, yeah.
2017, yeah, 2018, yeah, just like Lewis fans, it's been 6 races and he's already fucking broken. So like, now imagine how he's going to feel if he stays until 2027. Like,
The best thing out of all this was Lewis's quote. I'm not entirely sure Ferrari was going to take it nicely, and I don't think even Fred is going to take it nicely. He was on Sky and he said that. So, and by the way, Lewis, in terms of performance this weekend, it's a positive from where he's been until Jeddah. You compare that to this weekend, I won't say he was on pace with Leclerc. He was slower, but it wasn't half a second or something that has been the case in the past.
No.
So he was a bit pumped up, and this weekend was the first time where Lewis was out there doing the media. He's not done the media in the first 5 or 6 races at all.
No,
And
no.
this week he was going to Sky. He was going
Well,
to all these races
sprint race in China, he did as well.
only for the sprint, not in the race.
Yeah,
After
yeah,
the
of
race, he was just the obligatory one, and then he's gone.
I
This time
wonder
he gave a special-
why it's the same here. I can't
Yeah.
think of, yeah.
So this weekend, he went and did the scrum with Sky, and what he said was, so I was sitting in the motorhome, and Fred Visser came in, and I put my hand on Fred's shoulder and told him, don't be sensitive.
What was it? It was calm down, don't be so sensitive.
Calm down, don't be so sensitive.
Yeah.
And no, wait. And he said, I could have said worse things on the team radio.
Yeah.
Okay, look, it's fine saying such things even behind closed doors. You're saying it in front of everyone, and you're basically gloating that, okay, I can't, I just did that to my team principal.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job. It's going to be fun.
I tell you what, he needs to be careful of as well is that if any team is going to sabotage a driver, it's Ferrari. Like, I mean, Vettel said one bad thing about Ferrari, and remember the treatment he got straight
2020
after that?
season. You look at that car, and if you're telling me that that car was the same as the one that Leclerc had, you're
But no, it was before that even. It was, was it what happened to the car in 2019? And he kind of alluded, he was like, I think we all know, there was something going on there with that engine. He basically said the team had cheated with the engine.
yeah.
And after that, all of a sudden, Vettel stopped getting any preferential treatment in the
Forget
car.
about preferential treatment. It's a lot of, anyways, and that's in the
But my
past.
point is, they complained about Mercedes sabotaging, which was obviously bullshit. But if you want a team to sabotage, Ferrari is the one team on the grid that will happily sabotage a driver.
Yeah.
You know?
And won't think twice.
No.
And be repentant about
Yeah,
it
yeah,
in
yeah.
which way.
Oh, you think you're better than Ferrari? Let's see you DNF for the next 7 races. You know, like, yeah.
For a minute, I mean, look, I'd say if we talk about the drivers, at least for Ferrari right now, and not even right now, it's been the case for the last 17 years. Ferrari's biggest problem is
not the drivers.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's the team, the structure, and everything. And look, one person is not going to solve it. But for me, I think I've said it here as well in the past. I think there's a very high likelihood in 2026, we might be in a situation where Ferrari is looking at a future where Leclerc is signed to some other team, Lewis is retiring, and Vasseur is gone.
Mm-hmm.
All three pillars of the team right now, I think they
Which
would
puts
be
them
gone.
back to them back
and you
to
might
20.
have Jerome D'Ambrosio as their team principal. And honestly, they'll deserve it.
And they'll get
the way they've gone about things.
and hopefully for the fun of it, with all the bashing that Red Bull's been getting, they get Verstappen.
Oh wow!
Just because I'd love
Could
to
that
see some of those.
happen?
I'd just love to see some of those Verstappen fans on Twitter who've been bashing Red Bull for not backing Max because it's the most idiotic thing ever. It's similar to what people were doing with Lewis and Mercedes. I will just love for them to start going like, I can't wait for Max to go to a serious team. He's going to Ferrari. Oh,
I
dear.
really,
It won't happen.
For
I think-
Max's sake, I seriously hope. I mean,
I-
until he's 40, 41, when it's basically a retirement home he needs.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
100 million
I
paycheck.
think Max
That's when you hope.
probably surely knows how bad Ferrari is now.
I would have
yeah.
said even Lewis surely knows, because Lewis basically won the titles because of Ferrari's incompetence. But
Why?
seems like he doesn't. It's
Like,
not
the thing
only
is-
him. It's not only him. It's his fans as well who are acting like.
But the
how
thing is-
Ferrari this bad? I'm like, were you not
The
watching
thing
Formula
that
One
I
when
didn't
Lewis was winning?
understand, the thing that I didn't understand was, fair enough, he wanted to drive in red before he retired. Completely understood that. Like, it's for some reason still. I understand why, but for some reason, all the drivers want to drive for Ferrari at some point. It's like a big thing, and I get it. Ferrari is kind of F1 or whatever, but it's when he said, "I want to go there and get my 8th." It's like, whoa, okay, like like look, there's dreams and there's fucking hallucinations. Let's calm down here,
Yeah.
Stop smoking whatever you're smoking. Chill out. You don't I'm gonna get
don't
called
fool
racist for
yourself.
that now, am I?
Yeah, don't fool yourself. Honestly, don't fool yourself. Look, Ferrari's not winning the title this season, and Sorry.
You didn't need to add this season. That sentence did not need this season added to it.
yeah, and
Ferrari's
the
not winning the title. Full stop.
And the second
End of
problem
sentence.
is Ferrari is nowhere when it comes to 2026's power unit, and even it's going to struggle. I'll go out on a limb and say that Ferrari is going to end up placing worse. No, okay, not placing worse. Ferrari will be a worse team than Red Bull in 2026. There, I said it. And I won't be surprised if that happens. Because look, They don't. Whe- By the way, what was just curious if you've read it? What was Fred Visser's first quote when actually he was told that Lewis seemed a bit upset how the race happened?
I
What
don't
was
know.
his first?
I don't know. What was it?
This is life.
Oh, oh my God! You just oh, it's life at Ferrari. It's just yeah. I mean, I love to say I told you so.
In his French accent, he's like, this is life. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're not. What the fuck is going on?
Just like I love to say I told you so, but if you'd like to go back and watch our podcast from last year, you'll see this all was perfectly predictable. This is just like
I think Fred Visser right now is a man who knows his job is in danger, and he's basically playing it up to the crowd that nothing's wrong, everything's fine. And it seems that he knows that shit is going to hit the roof ultimately.
Is that not just team orders from Ferrari though as well? Because Mattia Binotto was the same. Like remember, it's like they were the shit.
I honestly think Mattia Binotto was an incompetent team principal, though. I never thought that Fred Visser was incompetent.
No, look. What I just don't understand is though, like how did this happen? Because they were fighting for the Constructors' Championship last year. And then, like, they lost by what, 8 points or something? Like, it was such a small... And they were
the last race.
And their decision was, okay, we should change 95% of the car. It's like, what are you doing? The regulations haven't changed. Why have you changed the entire fucking car? Like, how?
Funny.
They're the only team that has gone backwards. Like, how? How?
You know, there's this thing in Formula One which is called learning from the past mistakes of others.
Italy doesn't do that. They don't do that. That's a cultural no-no in Italy.
Yeah.
I guarantee
No
you,
learning from mistakes.
if some guy ran tomorrow and his name was Mussolini, they'd be like, oh, he seems like a decent guy. I can't see anything going wrong with this.
Giorgio Meloni is a disciple of Mussolini, right?
Let's not get into that. But yeah, like, yeah, just if Italians are famous for one thing, it's not learning from the past.
Yeah.
You know?
Seems
They still live beside Vesuvius, an active volcano. So
yeah.
I mean,
It's all right. I mean, yeah.
by the way, I plan to retire in Italy, so I should probably stop talking now because I do want to get an accepted visa. But then again, Italians are corrupt, so I'll just be able to pay someone. So fuck it, it's fine. Like, yeah, I'll say what I want. It's fine.
Cool. Next up. I mean, a lot of... Look, if you have to sum up the entire weekend, I'd say Lewis would be very happy the way weekend went. And I think that's why he was a bit pumped. He just wanted to make a statement of sorts that he can finish ahead of Leclerc on pace.
But he couldn't.
Which he wasn't. But yeah. Again, so that is an entirely different story. Still.
If he had qualified better though. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry.
Moving on. The George Russell not a penalty thing. I think you've gone through it. The whole thing, right?
He lifted.
Yellow flag infringement. I think there's also a question there as well about.
He lifted.
Okay, let's save this one for that.
He lifted.
Yeah, let's save this for
He
the
lifted.
question. Exactly.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I know.
Fix the rules. Fix your fucking rules if you don't like
Precisely.
it. Yeah.
And a lot of, anyways, I was about to say a few mean things. I'll save it for the later.
Save it for later. Less people will be watching.
Kimi Antonelli. Again, I said Kimi Raikkonen. Kimi Antonelli, first pole position, and I think in Grand Prix racing, he was very, very close to get a pole as well. He was 0.067 seconds behind Max.
Yeah.
He's finally getting there, isn't he?
Yeah. And I think like some people are giving him a lot of hassle. I think Max fans particularly don't like him as well either. They're becoming the new Hamilton fans. Oh, because he's like the next Max, and they don't want that to happen, basically.
So what will they do about Freddie Slater? Who's also coming. By the way, Arvid Lindblad, I think he's good but not great. And Freddie Slater, they're 17, 16. They will be on the grid in next 2 years.
But there's always going to be a next Max, just like there's always going to be a next Schumacher. Or
the point is, next season we'll have 2 drivers who will be almost a decade younger than Max. and Max will be the
Yeah.
older, and
Yeah.
makes me feel old.
But
But yeah,
it's just bound to happen. But yeah, no,
correct.
Antonelli, I think there was something Antonelli talked about, and I think Toto talked about as well, that I found quite interesting, was that basically they were on this, like, between two levels, because after the crash last year in FP1, they figured the best thing to do was to kind of start him a lot slower and build him up. And Antonelli kind of got frustrated. He's like, I think we started too slow, you know. Look, I think this was bound to happen. Like, race 6 as well is impressive. It's taken Carlos Sainz 5 races to get used to the car, for example. So for a complete rookie, this is normal, you know. And I had a few people say, like, oh well, you know, it didn't take Max to warm this up. He got the chance. Like, yes, he drove for the entirety of 2015. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this wasn't like, everyone just jumps to Max got in the Red Bull and just immediately won a race. It's like, well, yeah. But one, two people crashed ahead of him, and two, that wasn't his first race. Like, people do remember he was driving in the Toro Rosso for, was it a full 2015? I think it was, right?
Yeah.
2015 and half of 2016 in the, nearly half of 2016 in the Toro Rosso, before he stole Kvyat's driver, or
And his
Kvyat's
life,
seat,
basically.
his wife, his kid.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
But
yeah.
but yeah.
That's how you stick it to the Russians, right?
Yeah. But yeah, just, I think people forget that Max had a lot more practice than Antonelli did in an F1 car.
Even that's fine. I mean, look, it doesn't matter what Max.
It's
had.
really impressive.
And you know,
I also
I've seen
don't
a lot
know
of
why people need to do this all the time as
Yeah.
well. It's a strange,
It's
you know.
look, I don't like the comparison with Max for a very simple reason, because I think Max at least got a decent amount of grooming at Toro Rosso, so you can't compare his first season with Kimi's. And I
Yeah.
don't think you can compare Kimi's first season with either a Lewis or a Jacques Villeneuve, who
Mhm.
kind of entered in a similar situation, similar setting, even though they had a
But
title
both of
contending
them,
car.
yeah, both of them started
He
in.
doesn't.
That would be if Antonelli was starting in the McLaren, then it
Yeah.
would be a fair comparison.
Exactly.
You know,
Now
yeah.
that has not happened.
Yes.
And even if you leave that aside, look, Lewis was 22, 23 by the time he reached Formula One. Villeneuve was an IndyCar champion by the time he came to Formula One. So they had tons of experience.
The comparison to
Kimi is
Max is
learning.
because of the age, but as we've just said, Max also had the warm up year in Toro Rosso where the stakes
And his
were lower.
benchmark was Carlos Sainz. And a rookie
Hey.
Carlos Sainz.
Carlos Sainz is beating Hamilton right now. Okay, so let's.
A rookie Carlos Sainz. What I mean is a rookie Carlos Sainz. While Kimi's comparison is, well, basically a prime George Russell at this stage.
Well, George Russell, who beat a 7-time world champion.
Twice.
He's also. I'm still seeing people on Twitter being like, "Oh, George Russell's not that good." It's like, yeah, he's 6 points off Max in a Mercedes. Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, "Oh yeah, but the Mercedes is the second fastest car." I'm like, "Oh, just shut the fuck up. Just please go away. Leave me alone. Just stop."
Yeah, leave that aside.
It's the third fastest car ever.
Exactly.
Yeah, just
Exactly.
stop.
Yeah. Okay, the question I didn't put a question, I actually made the claim. I think George should start planning his future.
No,
And I'm being very serious about it.
he should hold
'cause-
on for dear life.
Which is basically the same thing. I don't think he should stick with Mercedes for the long run, because look, he's 28. He's not the way Toto talks about Kimi and the way Toto talks about George. It's look, George has always been the stepson for some reason or the other. First, it was Lewis who was the favorite one, and now it's Kimi.
This was the interesting thing, wasn't it? Because George was George was brought in 2022 to be Lewis Hamilton's replacement. So the idea was supposed to be that some number 2 would kind of come in now with George as the team leader. And then, unfortunately for George, Kimi just kind of came around. It's like, oh, look, there's the next Hamilton. Bye, George. Yeah.
It seems like it right now, because look, he's doing this when he's 18, and he's not. I don't think he's reached anywhere close to what he's going to be.
No.
And there's this one very clear thing that is obvious. The pace that Kimi Antonelli has, it's a special one. George is an elite talent. I'd say Oscar, Lando, Charles, maybe I won't put in the same bracket, but these 4 guys, they're elite talents. Max, maybe Alonso, Lewis, they are special. What they do in a car, maybe Leclerc as well, they are special. What they do in a car, they are just They just
What
take it to a
Leclerc
different
does, what they do in a car is almost as impressive as what Leclerc does in a Ferrari.
level. Yeah, exactly.
Because if you
Which is
put the Ferrari
really attractive.
handicap on, Leclerc is like 7 million seconds faster than Verstappen.
Exactly.
We're just not
And
accounting
basically
for
a seven-time
Ferrari.
world champion.
Yeah, yeah.
He,
He's
he,
not
he,
accounting
he
for
should be
Ferrari.
given an honorary championship, at
Yeah,
least
I
3
think
or
so
4,
too.
for sticking around in
100%.
Ferrari for 7 years.
They should give him at least 3 championships and just say,
Yeah.
look,
And
you've
maybe a
earned
new
these.
heart, because the current one is probably going to stop.
And maybe a
very soon.
contract at McLaren or something, just get him out of there.
Yeah. I feel bad for him.
So do I. I don't feel bad for Hamilton because Hamilton brought this on himself.
Yeah.
He had a good, Leclerc entered as a Ferrari junior.
Yeah.
Hamilton had a good team who were on the up, who don't make silly decisions and don't sabotage their cars. And he decided, no, I prefer to. Basically, what he's done is he's basically admitted to the world that he is a kinky submissive. That's essentially what he's done.
Yeah, we'll cut it out and put it on. Just this bit. And, yeah, by the way, what's your take with George? I think he should leave.
No, I think he should
First
stay
of all,
because
he's not got his contract in hand, it is disrespectful by now. He basically got a podium on a weekend where
I
he
think-
wasn't doing well.
I think he should, under no circumstances, leave. I think he should, if
I think he
needs
should
be,
go to Aston Martin.
I think if needs be, he should sign a contract with Mercedes, 1 year, no pay. Just give me the fucking 2026C, because I think the only way that Russell doesn't become a Ricardo, as you mentioned before, which I think is, for various reasons, is a really good comparison. There's so many similarities between the two.
Yeah.
The only way he gets out of that box is by doing what Ricardo didn't, winning a title. Because once you win a title, even if you just win one title, people will pay you a lot of money to stick around, even when you're not performing.
They're banking
Kimi
on
Räikkönen.
Mercedes being the fastest cars.
What I'm banking on is that if the
Mercedes will have the same engine as McLaren.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And McLaren will have 2 drivers fighting each other, right? Once again, because they will keep the 2 drivers, yeah. And George Russell, I think, is a top tier talent who could definitely beat Antonelli next year anyway, I think. I do think it's going to take a couple of seasons, like Piastri, for Antonelli to kind of get on top of things. So I think
it's going
George
to be
could
neck
win
and neck by
title
next
year.
season. I think Kimi is going to be neck and neck by next season. I
Maybe.
don't even doubt
But
it.
if he goes to Aston, isn't that just an even bigger risk than staying?
It's a long-term project, but it's a project where you have Newey, you have Honda, you have fuck ton of money, and you have Andy Carl as
But
well.
if you're Aston Martin, right, and you're not, they probably aren't 100% sure they're going to have a title winning car in 2026. I am sure Newey has said to them, let's hold on the brakes. We're going to end up having a 2009 season next year. We'll get most things right, but not everything. Turnaround is too short. 2027 is going to be our 2010. So why not hold out and think about a Max Verstappen instead of a George Russell? So I don't know if
Aston,
yeah,
because Max won't go there.
he might if Red Bull is nowhere in 2026.
Okay, so you're saying in 2026 try and pursue a driver. That's what you're saying.
I think they hold on to Alonso for 2026. If Max comes calling now, then fair enough. Poor Alonso, that's that. But I think if George comes calling, simply the answer for them is going to be well, look, we'll just hold out for a year and wait and see if we can get Max. Because if we give Alonso a title winning car, we know he'll perform. We've seen him perform when the car comes. So it's not like a Lewis where you're not sure if he's still got it. Alonso has still got it. We saw this 2 years ago. So Alonso's just a better driver than Lewis Hamilton. I think that's been proven time and time again.
I'm not getting into that. Hi, Baxty. Hi, Shahryar. We'll have you on to discuss.
Yeah. And Max is clearly not. Max is clearly a Newey merchant.
Yeah, that is also true.
Colapinto is God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think George is sticking around.
Yeah, for George, I don't know. If you're looking at it from George's perspective, where do you think his future lies? What do you think he should do?
I just think
ideally?
he should stay for next year because if he leaves,
he will get a multi-year contract, which will be, I think, 2 to 3 years or something. What we
yeah,
are
if he
looking
can
at,
stay
right?
with Mercedes, I think he should stay with Mercedes. Genuinely, unless he gets a shot at McLaren, I think he should stay at Mercedes, because the other teams, like obviously Aston is the big one that you would assume, but we don't know how Honda's engine project's going to turn out. We would assume it's good because they've got, all the data from the current one, and we know they can build an engine. So, but a lot of this is assumptions. Like, there's just so many.
Yeah, only
whereas,
Mercedes is the one which is basically making the most noise.
yeah, and Mercedes is the one he would obviously have the most confidence in as well. He doesn't need to change team. He doesn't need to get used to everything. If
He's a
Mercedes
stepson in his team.
But I think, look at what happened with Ricardo.
By the way, you saw what happened
Ricardo
in the
left
sprint?
and tried to get to a top team, and it didn't
Yeah,
work
so
out.
did. Yeah, again, it depends entirely, right? Because Lewis did the same thing and it worked for him.
Sure.
It depends on where
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
moving.
yeah.
You're moving to fucking Renault. Then you're
But-
the idiot.
But when Lewis went to Mercedes, it was clearly on the rise.
Yeah.
Whereas Aston is clearly on the rise and somehow ninth in the championship. So it's like...
They're
let's-
ninth.
I think so, yeah. Am I crazy?
They're eighth.
Oh,
They're
sorry, right. They're eighth.
Alpine
yeah.
is ninth.
Yeah. But like when...
No, sorry. Alpine is 10th. Sauber is 9th. Yeah.
But when Lewis went to Mercedes, they were third in the championship the year before, and they were
fifth.
second the year.
They were fifth.
Were they fifth? Right, okay. But they were very much, you could tell they were on the up. Like
Everyone knew the engine was going to be
Yeah.
great. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
it was just,
Let's see.
he just got lucky that basically the other two guys were actually fighting for titles at that point. and
My
didn't really
worry
go.
is George is not turned into a punching bag and someone who's an afterthought. Because look, right now
Yeah.
he's at the peak of his powers, and what
But
happened
isn't-
with Daniel
But
was
isn't that what, but isn't this exactly what happened to Ricardo? And Ricardo left and it didn't work out. So
yeah, he
there's-
went to the wrong team.
Sure, yeah, but I think
He should have gone to Ferrari.
Oh,
Sorry.
if only he had gone to Ferrari and replaced Vettel.
Vettel
Vettel
or
had gone to
Leclerc, yeah.
Mercedes, would have been great,
Oh, that would have been a nice world. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. No,
Anyways,
I think
moving on,
George should
moving
stay for 2026. I think
Yeah.
it'd be a gamble to go anywhere else.
Fine. I'll take your word for it. I'd still want him to not be in a position where within a year or so he realizes that, first of all, Mercedes is where he's basically
Also-
the stepson. Yeah.
Also,
go for it.
like, I think George can beat Antonelli.
Not at his peak.
I think so. I'm calling it.
Right.
I'm calling it.
But we won't see that, right? The peak
I hope we do.
of the two.
No,
I hope we
see.
do.
Well, I hope we do. And if we don't see it, the great thing is I'll be able to say, nah, he would have beaten Mercedes. And there'll be no way to prove me wrong. So it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. Yeah.
Good. All this is going to go to shit when 2026 Lance Stroll becomes a world champion.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Because they signed fucking Lawson in the second seat or something. Yeah.
And Lawson would beat him. That's the problem.
That is
they'll
the
have
issue.
they'll have to bring
Latifi back from the dead.
Nikita Mazepin. Yeah, just bring Latifi back. Make it an all Canadian squad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how bad Canada has fallen, right? From Jacques Villeneuve, Gilles Villeneuve, we have Latifi and Lance Stroll. Oh God. Yep. Moving on. So Williams is currently 5th in the championship, and first of all, brilliant weekend. Alex Albon, right now, we are 6 races into the season. He's at 30 points. Guess how many points Carlos has?
20?
7.
Is it
Not
is
27.
it that low?
It's
It's
7
7.
or 9, yeah.
Although, yeah, to be fair, like his first 4 races didn't go to plan, so I think that's kind of
Yeah, but Albon has got a couple of P5s now.
Sure.
I mean,
But I think-
remember
I think-
last season we were so much on the... I think a lot of people thought on the same lines that
Sainz would
Carlos
just
is going
destroy
to
him.
fraud check Albon.
In fairness, though, I mean, Sainz, after just 6 races, is getting very close, and Albon has been in that team for how long now? 3 years, 4 years? Is it 4
Yeah.
seasons? This is his 4th
4
season?
or 5 years. Yeah.
So, like, with that trajectory, like, I don't want to call it as like, oh, well, Albon's kind of put Sainz in his place or anything, because I think, like, we could very much get to the end of the season and we could have a second half of the season where Carlos is just beating him every weekend. So,
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's going to be every weekend. I think it's
No.
still going to be competitive.
at the moment, it looks like actually Albon is far better than everyone gave him credit for.
Yeah, I think that's the most
Yeah.
important takeaway. That
Yeah.
Albon
Even if they're
is not a jump.
if they're even by the end of the season, that will be a
Expected.
win for Albon, to be
Yeah,
honest.
exactly.
Because
At
Carlos
least for
we know is
perception's
very
sake,
good.
right? Because look, the kind of backing that Carlos got when he was picked up by James.
Yeah.
Just look where we are. And you caught on to the whole thing where
But I
Albon
mean,
ignored the team order.
let's look at how close Carlos is after 6 races compared to how close Lewis is to Leclerc.
It's all right. I mean, you keep on shitting on Lewis. You should not do that. Such a
If he
racist trick.
just qualified harder.
It comes down to that.
It's just such easy pickings. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
because it's so obvious this was going to happen.
I know. For us,
Not for everybody, unless you had Lewis Hamilton in your profile picture on
Exactly.
Twitter, it was
Yeah, yeah.
obvious to everybody else.
Yeah.
Everybody
But the problem
else
is
saw
every
this
second
coming.
person on X is basically a Lewis Hamilton fan, and they just won't accept the reality.
Well, no, it's not every second person. That's not over. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, every third.
It's a lot. But yeah, Sainz, I think the fact is this was race 6. Yeah, race 6. Sainz has been pretty close to Albon now. I think that's I think Williams and James Wales probably have a lot of confidence now that okay, he's getting better and better at the car, especially because qualifying tells you a lot about how comfortable a driver is, and he does seem to now kind of be on par with Albon in qualifying at
He
least.
beat him, right? I think he beat him as well. this
I
time
think in
around.
both, right?
I think it was. No, it was one of them.
Just
he
one,
beat
was
him
it?
in for
Main
the
qualifying.
Grand Prix, not in the
Okay.
By
But
the
yeah,
way,
if he's getting that
Albon
close,
also lost
it's-
5 points, if I'm not wrong, in sprint. So it would have been 35-9.
Yeah.
So that's still, look, that gap is huge.
It's impressive.
For
It is
midfield teams,
impressive.
That's huge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's at least for Albon's sake, at least he's proving his worth.
Well, Ferrari's just very lucky that Sainz didn't immediately get on top of the car as well. 'cause
yeah,
They
would have been.
Williams would be P4 in the championship right now.
No, they won't be.
I don't know.
No, they won't be. They won't be.
Yeah, they would have.
Yeah, by the way, I think I put out a post where Leclerc is at 53 points. He's the best Ferrari driver. The best Williams driver is
30
Albon. He's at
30
30.
points,
The best Mercedes driver is Russell, and he's at 93 points. So Leclerc is closer to Williams than he is to Mercedes.
They finished second in the constructors last year. 8 points off.
And Fred
Why
Vasseur
did they
will come in.
change 95% of the car? That would
Fred
be like
Vasseur
me
will come
going
in and
out.
say, "Look, Fred Vasseur will come and say, this is life."
This would be like me going outside, seeing that I have a fucking I've just brought a new fucking, I don't know, McLaren racing car, or McLaren car, road car, walking out and going, well, that's pretty good. But if we take 95% of those Mazda parts, I think this could be better. What are you doing?
By the way, did you check the whole? Did you see the whole thing of where Alpine kind of ignored the team radio and jumped Carlos?
Yeah.
Yes. And the funny thing was Carlos was saying, "Look, I don't have any confidence in the team and everything anymore." And then James Walsh came in and said, Carlos, we'll talk about it. We'll find a solution to it. Maybe he didn't listen or something. And again, that's what it came down to. Albon said that when the call came, he couldn't listen. He was almost side by side with Carlos and jumped in.
Yeah, it's just a tricky learn
yeah.
at Red Bull. And I'm here for it. Pretend the radio's broken.
Yeah, I think Ocon did it last race. I mean, yeah. Anyways. But yeah, it's funny. I think for Williams being P5 already, and yeah, they're probably going to get a podium or something.
Yeah.
I won't be surprised. Anyways, now just jumping on to 2 breaking news. First of all, Jack Doohan is fired by Alpine.
Is it been confirmed
Frank
or
O'Connor.
is it?
It's done. It's done.
But is it official or have you confirmed it? Because
It's confirmed.
I've confirmed it. However, the same people told me that it would happen before Miami, and the same people also told me that Piastri was confirmed, and back with Alpine a couple of years ago. However, I will say I don't want to hassle them too much on the Piastri thing because these are people who work in Alpine, and according to Alpine, Piastri was signed.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, so they were right. They just didn't realize that Piastri had not
Told them.
Yeah. So.
But the race has reported it, and I've asked a few people, and they say, yeah, it's a done deal. They say that Jack has been told, so it's
Okay.
done.
Yeah.
And
I heard the exact wording I got was It was done before Miami, but at the last minute they decided to keep Jack in because they didn't want to risk Franco's debut on a sprint. And then the last line of it was, but Jack wasn't told this because they weren't sure until the last minute. So apparently, from what I heard, right? It makes sense though that they were like, okay, we're going to switch you. Don't tell Jack yet. And then at the last minute. But I don't know if I believe the last line of that because Jack sounded like a person who had been replaced in sprint qualifying. So
I think it was a bit overblown. I think he deserved to be angry because for no reason whatsoever they put Gasly in front of him and then he couldn't even complete the lap. It was
it's also his own fault for
Ferrari
not
level
driving
nonsense.
out of the fucking.
Yeah, they pushed him out, right? In that sense.
No, he drove out and then they had to push him back to start again.
He hit the front.
He nearly hit the wall, pavement. And then they had to push him back. And
yeah, exactly.
So if
that happened, but again, it's look if you're talking about, I think he also out-qualified Gasly. Yeah.
You're talking to, I am a Colapinto fan, so you're talking to the wrong person here. I'm not going.
Look, the problem that
Colapinto's better than
right
Hamilton
now
and
is
Alonso
if
as far as I'm
Colapinto does
concerned.
not. The problem is if Colapinto does not out-qualify Gasly in the first 4 or 5 races, it's going to be tricky for Alpine. Because look, first of all,
it's an upgrade.
You shouldn't
regardless.
expect Colapinto to do that. First of all, he's not tested. So the expectation.
But he's
should
as
not
good
be,
as Max Verstappen, so I assume he will.
Yeah, and let's get to the serious bit. I think it might not happen. If it doesn't happen, you still need to give Colapinto a longer rope. Give him 10 to 12 races so that he beds himself in.
Sure.
Don't play around with them. Honestly, don't play around with them. Just give him time. Give him confidence.
I think Colapinto has more potential than Doohan has, personally.
Could be.
I also think there's a variety of reasons. Like, okay, look at Lawson. We know he's a decent driver, like not a top tier, but look how quickly he was broken by Red Bull this year. Like, just immediately fell apart. Colapinto literally like crashed, caused $1 million worth of damage, and then was just like, shit happens. Let's move on. Like he's a proper like he's Oscar Piastri, Kimi Räikkönen, just doesn't give a shit. Like just shit happens. So I think the pressure won't get to him in the same way that Doohan.
Yeah, the pressure is not a concern.
Not going to bother him.
Even
if they're worried about crashing, like Doohan's already crashed quite a bit. So I mean, it's not really a concern there.
The concern is not that. The concern
I think
is
his
very
pace is
simple.
there though.
That is the whole thing. I think it comes down to the performance. If the performance is there, it's an.
We just said we were pretty impressed by
thing.
Albon, right?
Yeah. And he was.
I rest my case.
Right on par with. No, I understand. I agree with you. My point is, I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. What I want to see is.
I think we all know that Colapinto is better than Verstappen. This has been proven. No, but look, I just don't see the thing is, I get what you're saying. I just don't see the downside for Alpine. Like it's
the downside
an obvious
is
switch.
he's not been given enough time to gel with the team. My worry is my worry is the way
Flavio
the media
doesn't
works.
give you time.
That's the problem, and I think Colapinto should be given time because look, it's
He will,
nonsensical.
because there's not. Who else are they going to put in after that? It's like the
Bring
Red
back
Bull.
Jack. In 6
they,
races, it's
they
what?
will not bring
4,
back Jack.
It's 4-2 in qualifying.
Flavio does.
6 races.
Flavio is like Red Bull and helmet. They do not go backwards. Flavio
I doubt it. Right?
Flavio will not admit a mistake. No way. If Flavio puts Colapinto in and Colapinto doesn't perform, Flavio will blame everything except Flavio, and there is no way they're putting Jack back in because that is Flavio going, I was wrong. And Flavio does not do that. Flavio does not. Flavio will make Gasly crash at an opportune time to give Colapinto a win before admitting he is wrong. Like, there is no way.
Look, he can do that. I won't even be surprised.
Singapore, Colapinto's going to win. You've heard it here first.
I'd just give Colapinto time because, look, for me, it's a very simple thing.
I think they'll give him the season, personally.
They should.
My
thing is, first 5-6 races, you put Colapinto in. If he's not close to Gasly, if he's 3 to 4 tenths behind, I think the same people that have been bigging him up, they'll be like, okay, there's something wrong. But the reality is there isn't.
I know.
The reality is you need to give drivers. Yeah, the reality is you need to give him time. You need to give the kid time. My whole point is that Flavio tends not to give people time, and that is something that he's going to eat up another youngster. which I hope it doesn't happen because
No.
Colapinto deserves the longest stick.
Colapinto's the next. Like, this is like Schumacher arriving at Benetton. This is what this is.
Yeah.
Colapinto's going to win 2 championships with Alpine next year, 26, 27. And then he's going to go to Ferrari and he's going to do what Lewis Hamilton and Vettel couldn't do.
And Alonso couldn't do.
Yeah.
Cool. Next up, Audi.
You've heard it here first. Colapinto to replace Lewis Hamilton for 2026.
I won't even. I'd not wish it on the kid in any which way. I won't even talk about it.
If Colapinto announces he's going to Ferrari, I will just stop being a Colapinto fan.
Yeah.
Like, no, I can't do this again. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm out.
It's too bad for the heart. So,
I nearly stopped
Again.
watching Formula One because I was crying too much watching Vettel. I can't do it again. You know.
yeah, it makes you hate life.
Yeah.
more than. There's this guy brake boosted, and every day you see him going through the mental trauma every race weekend. And it starts from Friday, it gets worse and worse until Sunday, and then he takes a break, and then he comes back on a race weekend, and again he does the same thing. I think it's masochistic bullshit, mate.
I just don't know why.
Seek help.
Yeah, like, I just don't get it. It's like, just stop, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, Audi, by the way,
Oh, God, yes.
restructuring the
Speaking of shit shows, yeah.
exactly. So they are restructuring the engine department, which is basically what's going to happen is their CEO is gone. So they made Mattia Binotto the head of the entire operation, which is always a good thing.
In fairness, if you want a guy who can cheat at engines,
Yeah, but he gets caught. That's the problem. You want someone who can cheat at engines, but not get caught.
I was gonna say, yeah, but Volkswagen has a history of cheating on engines as well, but they also got caught massively. It was like the biggest scandal, right? So
God.
yeah.
Yeah. So
they're
maybe
putting-
not.
Wait, so they're putting 2 engine cheats together to work on an engine, both of whom are cheating with engines.
The team is not making onto the grid until
This is not.
the way they're going.
If Audi don't win if Audi don't win a championship in Formula One, I can personally say I'm never buying a Volkswagen again, because
Yeah, I won't buy it anyways.
no, I'm not going.
Not
I
a
wasn't.
fan.
It's grand because I'm not going to anyway. Like, I've just
Yeah.
I think I'm buying a Mazda, which is what I'm actually checking on my phone. Sorry, but yeah, because the finance just went through.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to decide whether I want it now or whether I want a Chinese car for half the price.
You should wait for BYD.
No, I was looking at it's for the wife, so I was thinking of maybe getting a Geely. Because they're like literally half the price for the same
That's
car.
what I did.
Yeah.
Not the Geely. I bought a cheaper car and just now it's moved down.
But yeah,
My wife takes it to the office.
oh right,
Cut it-
okay,
cut it-
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Speaking
go
of
for it.
shit Chinese stuff, no, but it's Audi's fault that we are going to get 3 years of shit regulations.
I won't even put it on them.
It is technically their fault. It's it's FOM and Audi. It's both of them. But
why were they so much after getting Audi?
they want the
comes down to them,
Volkswagen
right?
group, right? Like, not Audi particular, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's just.
Anyways.
Like, basically, so what we're saying is 3 seasons of regulation is probably going to be dog shit, because
4 seasons, by the way.
4
26, 27, 28, 29.
It's 29 is is it 29 not
They
to
are-
change?
30.
Oh, great.
They proposed it, but it didn't go through.
So we're either going to get a situation where one team like Mercedes, for example, will get it right. The only saving grace, as you've already mentioned, is that McLaren, they've got a better aero team, so if they have the same engine, we could. But
Evens
either
things
way,
out.
we may end up in a situation where a team is like 3 seconds ahead, which
No.
yeah, could be. Gary
the
Anderson
issue-
has talked about this. 3
Yeah,
seconds.
I
he
know,
says.
I know.
And I trust Gary Anderson because
I don't trust him as much. 3 seconds.
he used to run an Irish team. He knows what he's. If there's one thing Irish people don't do, it's talk shit. Never mind. What were you saying?
Yeah, exactly. Look,
He's
Audi's
Scottish, I
going to be
know,
a shit
by the way.
show. Cadillac is not ready. Apparently, even we are midway through this season.
They haven't
and
even
they have
got
to
drivers.
get a car on track in 6 months. So they are not ready.
They should really hire Peter Windsor. He knows what he's doing.
Of course, he surely does. He has his U's and V's. He has his U's and V's aligned apparently.
Yeah.
So he's never coming on our podcast, isn't he?
No, there's no hope. Not a chance.
Yeah,
We've as much
exactly.
hope as getting Eddie Jordan on the podcast as we do Peter Windsor.
Oh, yeah. Let's not make those jokes.
No, but unfortunately, I want Eddie Jordan on the podcast, but now it's quite frankly impossible. Rest in peace, you absolute legend. Yeah. One of them is a legend of the sport. The other one never made it to the sport.
Exactly.
Well, he did as an engineer, right? But yeah.
He did. I mean, he was part of the communications team.
For who was it again? It was, I forget.
He's been with Ferrari. He's been with a few.
Was it
teams
Ferrari?
in 80s and 90s? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, people think being at Ferrari is a big deal, but only if it's during a very select period.
In the last 50 years, there's 10 years that were good. And that's how poor they are. So, yeah.
16
that's true.
years, right?
Since 2008. This is 2025.
70s,
17 years.
70s, a couple of years in the 80s, and then...
The last title was in 79 when Jody Scheckter won. Then the next title came in 2000 when Michael won.
Oh,
Then-
of course. Sorry, you said last 50 years. I'm thinking the entirety of the sport. Yeah. No.
Last 50 years. They've been 10 good years.
Oh, God.
Great job, Ferrari. A place where
Why would
drivers
you
go to
change
plastic
all the
tubes.
parts on the car? You had a fast car. Why would you do
Yeah.
this? They should have just put
Anyways.
Lando Norris in the Ferrari. That would have solved
Yeah.
all their problems.
Precisely. I mean, that's the missing ingredient. Yeah, that's too big a joke.
Could have bottled it.
Yeah. I think Audi is going to suck. Cadillac is not going to be ready. Ferrari is not going to be in a good shape. I'm pretty sure by now. Wait, I'm not done.
Ferrari's going to be Ferrari.
Yeah, I'm not done. There's which team is left? Red Bull is not going to be in good shape. That's 4 teams, which are basically at the bottom. And
Which
then
means
we
RB
have
is not going to be there.
RB. That's 5 teams.
Yeah. Because, same
And
engine.
then we have basically what? You have 4 Mercedes engine
Four
cars.
Mercedes engine cars.
Fuck my life.
Because the French...
Jesus Christ.
Because the French did what they always do and gave up. So there's
Yeah,
no
to the
Renault
Germans,
anymore.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, God.
You know what's happened? I guarantee you years ago, or up in heaven, down in hell, sorry, Hitler's sitting there. And it's like, good news. What happened? Oh, the French surrendered again. No way. Has there been a World War III? No. But Renault stopped producing engines and are now powered by the Germans. Oh. Is it at least a Volkswagen engine? No.
I was about to say that. I was just about to say that. Good on you to pick it up.
Sorry, it's the Mercedes lads down the road at Stuttgart.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, they're good people as well. Yeah.
So it's gonna be
basically it's four Mercedes
four
teams
Mercedes
and an Aston
teams.
Martin. And an
You know,
Aston Martin.
I will say,
And a Haas. Oh no, Haas is also going to suck because it's the same power unit. Fuck my life. There are 6 shit teams and 5. I'm worried.
I
I'm
will
worried
say
about 2026.
one thing that is good is, and this is only good if you are, like myself, a Colapinto fan,
I was about to say that.
is that Alpine actually, and I think this is because Flavio, going back to the DNA of Benetton, Alpine generally actually do build decent cars. They just do everything else shit. So if they take away some of the, because they try and be the French Ferrari, so, but unlike Ferrari, they do tend to build a good car most years.
They're
They
going to
just
be
generally
third or
have a
fourth
shit
fastest,
engine.
right?
Well, the thing is, if they have the same engine,
3rd or 4th fastest, right? I mean, the competition is
Yeah.
between 5 teams. Basically, it's four of your Mercedes power units, and then there's Aston Martin. That's it.
yeah.
That's the competition. Look, either ways, at least it's going to be an upgrade for Alonso. I'm just happy about that. He won't be
Well, we hope.
right at the back. Yeah,
We
we
hope.
hope.
I mean,
Who the fuck
if
knows?
not, the thing is, if Honda fuck up here, it's going to be 4 Mercedes teams. Just
That's it.
Jesus. It's basically going to be a spec series with some fairing.
Yeah, it's basically going to be Formula One of 1980s and 1990s, early 90s, where there are 4 teams that fought for everything and everyone else just twiddled their thumbs.
Yeah.
Great
Oh,
job.
God.
Great job, F1 and FIA. Yeah, good. Anyways, now
I
let's
just
get to the
hope Colapinto
questions.
gets a championship next year. I'll be happy then. It's fine.
Yeah.
Actually, there is a good side to this, which is that if there is a title fight and it's only between those 5 teams,
4 teams.
McLaren, Williams,
There will be a fight between McLaren and Mercedes. That's
But
what it seems like.
let's say any of
Maybe
those
Aston.
teams,
Yeah.
all of those teams, at the very least, all have a driver I would root for.
Yeah.
That's good. Because I really like Oscar. I think Lando's underrated, so I don't hate Lando like some people do. Then you've got Alonso, obviously, in Aston, so you'd root for him. Colapinto in Alpine, please God. Hopefully it's not Gasly. I can't fucking stand Gasly. I really can't. He's just so unbelievably boring as a driver. He's the most incredibly dull person on the grid, I think.
Good. Hot girlfriend. Hot girlfriend.
Yeah, but she'll leave him just like PK did when someone better came along. And then at Williams, you've got Albon and Sainz. I like both of them. So happy if either of them wins the championship. And then, yeah. Oh, and Mercedes
Lenny
and
Russell.
George and Russell. So actually, yeah, I'm not that bored. Like, if any of them,
Would be fun, yeah.
only thing I'll be annoyed about is I will just feel sad for Leclerc. Like, I will just feel so bad for Leclerc.
Yeah.
Because, like,
I
at least
won't be
Norris is getting his chance. If Norris loses it, that's on him.
on him. It's on him.
But like Lando, we kind of berated for a few years saying, why are you sticking with McLaren? Like, they're not going to get there. They did. Now, if he loses, it's on him. So that's fine. I wish Leclerc got the chance for it to be on him. Because people will say, 2022. But he had half a season of having a good car. And
6
then it went to
races.
shit. Yeah.
6
So
races.
there you go.
That's it.
So yeah.
Anyways.
If
yeah.
Leclerc never wins a title, I'll feel terribly sorry for him.
If at least I hope he fights for one.
Well,
Yeah.
on that depressing note, I've got like 15 minutes before I have to go. Should we jump to questions?
Yes, let's go.
Right.
Let's go for it.
Let me just pull the dinosaur over into view slightly. Oh, there we go. There we are. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I haven't had all the questions. There was actually quite a lot. Thank you for this, guys. There was
By the way,
a lot
thanks
of
guys.
questions.
First of all,
Yeah.
we love the fact
So,
that at least people
We're
are
gonna
engaging.
we're gonna fire through these, but if we don't get through them all,
I think
don't
a
know,
lot
we'll-
of those questions have been answered in the pod,
Okay.
but still, let's
cool. Sai, if Checo joins Cadillac, will Jason support Checo or Bortoletto?
Oh yeah, Cadillac is also coming.
I've already kind of answered this. I'm in Mexico, as you know, so I'm obviously going to support one of these South American drivers. Thank you, Helmut Marko.
You don't get your citizenship if you say you won't support Checo. There, I said it.
You know the way like gay people are in the closet, like those kind of people who don't come out. That'll be me. I'll be a closeted Colapinto fan.
Yeah.
I'll wear a Checo hat that has like a hidden Alpine logo somewhere or something. It's fine. I don't know. Like the thing is, I supported Checo for a long time. I think I'll probably support Colapinto still.
I'd be happy to see Checo back, and I'd be happy
So
to
would I.
see if he does well. Yeah.
Yeah, and
he
it'll
will, yeah.
it'll be Checo and Guan Yu Zhou in that car, I reckon.
That would be fun
Yeah.
because you know what? Checo outscores Joe, unlike Bottas.
And if he doesn't,
Oh,
that's
God.
going to be very, very hard for me to insult Bottas. So Checo, if you're listening,
Yeah.
you only live an hour and a half away from me. If you make me look bad, I will drive over there. You've probably got security, but this is Mexico. There's ways around everything. Next question is Coffee Head. If Ferrari implodes in 2026, didn't need that if, Coffee Head. When?
Yeah.
When Ferrari implodes in 2026, where does Lewis go? I've already replied to him on Twitter, so I'll just say mine. Met Gala. I think that's it.
Why?
I think,
He goes home.
call me
done.
a racist. I'm done. I don't care anymore.
Met Gala
Just-
is not racist, right? Met Gala is your fashion shows.
No,
thing,
I just
right?
mean because every time I bash Hamilton,
Okay.
like I bash any other driver, it's just like, oh, you're just being a prick. bashing them on performance. I bash Hamilton for performance, and it's because I'm a racist, which just makes me go, fuck you then. I'm gonna do it more. Because I'm that type of person.
Yeah. But he gets
Stubborn
he
asshole.
goes home. By the way, he
Yeah,
goes
home.
2026 is the last season, and then he's
Yeah,
done.
yeah. He's got a 2+1, right? So he could stay for 2027.
No plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope he survives this
No,
season.
well, I mean, he might stay in 2027 as a support driver to Leclerc in his second championship bid if Ferrari don't fuck it up. But otherwise, he's gone. Yeah.
So basically, he's gone.
I think there's a few here from Coffeehead.
Yeah, let's go through it. Let's go to this fast.
This is, Coffeehead. Has Oscar done enough to be number one? No.
No.
Not yet. Honestly, as well, I think we're going to have to wait until like halfway point of the season. And honestly, if it's still close, like if we get to the halfway point of the season and there's like 20 points in it, McLaren aren't going to make that choice. And if there's 100 points in it, McLaren still aren't making that choice. Do I think they should? Unless it's like properly, okay, Lando is out of this, I don't think they should make that decision.
Unless there is a Max or a George emerging as a contender, I don't think they will.
Yeah,
As
that's
simple
the
as
other
that.
side. Yeah, like even if there's a 50-point gap, but like Lewis, I'm just getting so used to passing. If Verstappen is like 50, if Verstappen is still 50 points off, having bottled it under pressure like Verstappen always does, then yeah, fair enough. But otherwise, no.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
next up.
If this is, I'm going to mix them around so I don't get another one from Coffee yet, because he sent a few. Holy fan. Could Williams beat Ferrari this year? Yeah.
No.
No, they could because they've got two competent drivers, and more importantly, a competent team.
And a better team principal as well. So
They've
Jimmy
got everything.
consonants for the win.
It could actually happen. Genuinely could happen.
I mean,
It's it's unlikely, but it could
Yeah.
happen.
Look,
Coffee head.
realistically, yeah, coffee head. Go for it.
So on that last one, you say
No,
no?
that's fine. Yeah. No,
No?
not happening.
I think there's an outside chance.
Of course, outside chances for everything. Outside chance,
Yeah.
Lewis wins the title, but no.
Coffee head says, is Aston trying to gain development time for next year, or are they actually this shit? No,
Yeah.
they're actually this shit.
They're shit. They have no idea what's
That
going
was
on.
a quick one. We both agreed on that instantly. Yeah.
They have no idea what's going on, by the way. Zero
No.
clue.
Oh God, we've already kind of answered this, but it's another one from Sai. Has Ferrari finally broken Lewis?
No, not
No.
yet. Give it a season.
Yeah, but they're well on their way.
Yeah. It's actually accelerated in 6 races. Look, this was supposed to be the dream, the honeymoon period, and and they've accelerated everything.
Also, I meant to mention this earlier. Those people who pointed out that Lewis would win a race quicker than Hamilton or than Vettel, sorry, sprints don't count. Go fuck yourself. Still hasn't. Next, Chiro. I think I've done this wrong. How long does it take to finish your tea in Italy?
Okay. Too long, apparently.
That can't be all of them, is it?
No, they aren't. There has
No.
to be more.
I'm sure as well there's one, maybe one fell out of here. Because I'm sure there's one from Skidmark. If not, I'll go.
There are a lot of them from Skidmark.
Yeah, I'll go and jump into the other ones. There is more. Let me just have a look.
Yeah,
Because
go for
I'm
it.
sure
I'll
there was
also
one
open
more
them.
here. Yeah. Because I wrote some of them down and then, like Ferrari, I got tired of having to do things, so I gave up. No.
Look, I'll go through them.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
is MBS going to become the supreme leader? So this is from Sai. Is MBS going to become the supreme leader? And I think what he means is the whole
The dictator, basically, yeah.
the FIA thing. And no, he's not.
Okay.
Yeah, for now at least. Next is again from Sai. Okay, why are you such Lando fanboys? There are so many other British drivers.
Neither
Let
of us are
Freddie
British.
Slater Yeah. I mean, you should know that, asshole.
He does know that.
Yeah.
He's a world class wind up merchant. I've got another one here from Ahmad Fabil 4133. If you want, we'll alternate because you've got the ones on Twitter, I assume.
Yeah.
And I've got the ones on the channel here. So we'll alternate quickly and try and get through a few of them.
Go for it.
What do you guys think about Williams' performance this season so far? James Vell's really brought the shine to the team. Did you guys believe they could beat the Ferraris? I guess we've already answered that. So
Yeah, we didn't believe they could beat the Ferraris. I don't think they believed that they could beat the Ferraris. I don't think Ferrari believed that Williams could beat Ferrari.
But here we
But
are.
it happened.
Yeah. Next one from you then.
Yeah. Okay. Abhilesh Kar. Not a question, but an opinion. Ferrari should just open F1 Twitter for a strategy. That would be better than their engineering degree ducks on the Twitter.
Genuinely, that would actually be better than what they're doing. Yeah, 100%.
By the way, I've actually interacted with the Ferrari strategy head, Ravin Jain. He's an Indian, by the way.
Oh, right.
He was picked up, I think, I think he was one
Are
of
you
the
about to
early...
tell us that's the problem, is it? Or
Earlier it was Inaki Rueda something who was there, and he has been replaced by him. Apparently nothing has changed. So yeah.
So
anyway.
you're saying they should get a British guy instead of an Indian guy. Gotcha. It's a very bit racist, but fair enough. Another one from Ahmad. It is Ahmad, right? Yeah, Ahmad Fabli. Sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong. My Arabic, and I just assume that's Arabic. I am a racist. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I think it's a fair bet, though, right, Ahmad?
No.
Ahmad. Yep, racist. Apologies, Ahmed. Is it? No, it's Ahmad.
Ahmed.
Okay. Well, I am a racist then. I apologize. Do you guys think that Jonathan Wheatley's departure is really affecting Red Bull's pit crew performance? First they had Bahrain and then in the Miami sprint.
It's actually, by the way, first of all, it's a very good question because this is
It's
something
hard
that a lot of people have asked regarding the operations thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit too early to say which direction they're going. But the most important bit is give it a season. Whenever people leave, there are going to be fluctuations within any organization. It takes time for them to gel and regroup.
Yeah.
So give it a season. If by the end of it they are still making these mistakes, then yeah, you got your answer.
I think we see this with like when team principals leave, it's why everything fucks up for so long because everyone has to gel with the new direction and new way of doing things. So I guess this is that on a kind of a smaller level. So yeah, for the time being, it doesn't look good, but I think you're right. I think it's too early to say, but there has been a couple of very un-Red Bull issues. Have you got one there, or I jump on?
Yeah. So, okay. Why were Williams so quick this weekend, apart from the obvious fact that Ferrari was absolutely shit?
Who's this from?
Skidmack.
Skidmack, hey.
I think it was So, again, Williams has come out and actually talked about it. According to them, it is primarily because the low downforce wings, whenever those configurations are actually in place, they tend to do well. Plus, Ferrari was maybe a step behind in general. So that kind of contributed to it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair answer. I mean, Williams did seem to have better straight line speed as well, like just to a massive, as you touched on there. Like we even saw when Williams was coming alongside with like DRS open for the Ferrari, and the Williams was kind of still just keeping in tow. So yeah, Ferrari doing Ferrari things. Dane Lua, I'm just pronouncing names wrong. Fuck it, it's fine.
Yeah.
Question to tick off the Lewis fans. This is started. It's already started right on me.
I mean, don't we do it enough?
If there is any Lewis fans watching, I mean,
Coffee Head. He's a Lewis fan.
Well, just fair play for getting into character, because at least like listening to this is good practice for watching your driver at Ferrari. Do you see a race this year where Yuki Tsunoda finishes ahead of Lewis Hamilton? First question. Yeah, 100%.
For sure.
Yeah. Mainly because the Red Bull is like second fastest overall as well. So if Yuki can get a hold of it, then like
But Yuki's better than Lewis.
Right. Do you think Alonso, this is from a second question in the same part, and do you think Alonso should stay at Aston Martin in case Aston is one of the best cars in 2026? Yes, 100%. I really hope there's no movements, because I just, like, if he can end his career on a high, I would love that. I don't want him to end his career after this season, please.
Yeah. 100%. I just, look, this is it for Alonso. If 2026 the car is not good,
That's it.
Anything is wrong, he's done.
Yeah.
He'll leave midway through the season. I won't even be surprised if he does that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So again, Skid Mac, why does McLaren keep insisting on the fact that they don't have the fastest car except Piastri? I'm sure this will be talked about, but thoughts on Norris this weekend? Why he doesn't have what it takes to be a world champion? Okay, you go first.
Let's
go one by one. There are two questions. First
So
is
the
why does
insistence on-
McLaren keep insisting that it's not the fastest car? Then
I
the
think,
second question.
as I mentioned already, to be fair to McLaren, they're wrong. First of all, they have been the fastest car for most of the races. If they had a phrased like they weren't the outright fastest car in Jeddah, they were on par with Red Bull there. Everywhere else, they were the fastest car. I wish what they would say, because it's a much more reasonable, logical answer, is yes, we have got the fastest car, but it's not by a massive margin. That would be a much more respectable, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Like, this weekend is an outlier so far. This is not like an RB19 or a Mercedes in 2014. But yeah, it's a bit, I don't know why they keep saying it, because it is kind of like, even the drivers, like Oscar even is admitting, it's like, yeah, we have the fastest car. Like, it's fine.
I think
It's a strange one.
Look, other than I think you kind of touched on it. I think it's been the fastest car, but the thing is, it's fastest, but it's more like competitive. It's not a case of being so far. It's not like having such a margin of error that you can make mistakes and get away with it.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is
Which is
honestly,
what the RB19 and the Mercedes were
is,
like.
Which was, look, Lewis won races on his off days by basically cruising.
Max spun and won the race.
Yeah, Max
remember?
spun and he won the race in
race.
which was in Hungary.
Yeah.
So
like,
yeah.
And look at Spa, for example, like last to first in way back to winning, wasn't it? Or second?
I think it was within
7
half
laps.
race
He was
distance,
like,
and he was
within 7 laps, he was, I think, P4 or something. So, like, it's just not like, it doesn't matter how good of a driver you are. Like, that doesn't happen unless you have a supremely dominant car. That's why, like, when people talk about like Lewis Brazil 2021, it's like, yeah, he came through the field, but that car was a fucking rocket ship compared to the rest of the cars he was passing. It was only the pass on Max that was, that was the only pit that was impressive. Yeah. Everything else. Whereas Max in the wet in Brazil in 2024, that was impressive because the car wasn't just outright fastest in the field.
It was the driver making the difference.
Yeah, that's where it's impressive. So yeah.
The second bit, I am sure. Okay, thoughts on Norris this weekend and why he doesn't have what it takes to be a world champion?
I think we've already talked about this at length, but I do think he has what it takes to be world champion. I just think that there's just parts of his mentality and the way he races that just aren't quite there. And I look, the thing is, I think as well, like, we talk about this all the time, and people say this all the time, like, yeah, he's not world championship material. The fact is, like, if Oscar wasn't there right now, he'd be world championship material even with all these mistakes. The problem is he's in a very close championship. Sergio Perez would have won the 2023 world championship if Max had broken his leg or something like Schumacher had back in the day. Max
would have still come back and won.
Sure, yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, if he broke it at the second race and didn't come back for the whole season, Perez would have won that championship. So there's just so many variables, but I think the thing is, like, it's world championship material versus world championship material when there's other world champions around you, basically. Is he the best candidate for world champion if they were all in equal cars? No. Max is winning it. So I just think it's a tough one on Lando because he's got the best car at a time when, like, literally the best driver since Schumacher is floating about. And he's got a teammate who is also world championship material. Like, that's a tough ask, Like, why did Lewis not win in 2007? Because Alonso was his teammate. Like, if Lewis had have joined and, like, Kovalainen was his teammate in 2007, Lewis would have won 2007 and 2008. Or, 2007.
And by the way, if Lewis had not even joined, if Pedro de la Rosa was Alonso's teammate,
Alonso would have had that championship.
He would have dominated.
So, like, you don't say Lewis isn't world championship material because he didn't beat Alonso and Kimi that year. A lot of it is down to just, I think that the simple way to put this is Lando has absolutely got world championship pace. But unfortunately, there's just parts of him that just aren't perfect. And when it's a tight title fight, that's just the way it is, you know?
Yeah, I tend to, this question has been actually put up a lot of times. If the championship material thing. So for me, it is a very, very simple criteria, and it comes down to three factors. For you to be a world champion, you need to satisfy three criteria. First, be in the fastest car. Second, beat your teammate. Third, be fast enough to beat your teammate. That's
Yeah.
it. You're fulfilling these three criteria. You are a world champion, and that's it.
Yeah.
There are Look, in Formula One, literally you can go back in the last 25 years, you'll actually find a lot of seasons where the best driver on the grid did not win the world championship.
Mm-hmm. Tons
And
of
that's always going to be the case. When Vettel was winning, there were arguments that Alonso is the best driver. When Lewis was winning, there were arguments that again Alonso is the best driver. When Alonso won in 2005, the argument was Michael is the best driver. And these things continue again and again and again. It's not going to change. The reality is, to be successful in Formula One,
as a Vettel fan, I would say that Alonso was probably the best driver on the grid in 2012, and he didn't win the championship.
Yeah, I won't say he was the best driver.
That was hard for me to say, but I think it's probably there's
No,
an
I won't say
argument.
that.
There's an
I
argument
will
to be
not say
made
that.
for it.
Of course. Yeah, sure. For some other day. Next question on your end.
Do you think people underestimated Alex Albon because they say Alex Albon if Alex Albon had a competitive teammate, he will crack under pressure. Like forgetting in the second half of 2014, he was finishing 4th and 6th in the Red Bull, blah blah blah. When he was teammates with Max.
Dane Lua, by the way. The question is from Dane Lua.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I think people did underestimate Alex, and I think we did caveat it last year, which we were saying like the thing about Alex that we just weren't sure of is what level he was at. So I think what we were saying is it wasn't like I think there were a lot of people who were underestimating him. To give ourselves credit, we didn't actually say that. We just said next year will be a proper test because Albon had been driving brilliantly, but he hadn't had the best teammates other than Colapinto, who, but Colapinto is the same as Verstappen. So, I think, I think a lot of people did underestimate Alex because of that, right? Like, I think so.
people overestimated Carlos Sainz. I think it's not a case of underestimating Albon. It's a case of people thinking that Carlos Sainz will join the team and completely stamp his authority, which he might. Ultimately, he might end up doing that. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
There's a reality though, and the reality is that all these drivers, these Sainz, Albon, Ocon, Gasly, these all are just, they're one level below your elite talents in Formula One. That is where these guys belong, and more or less you're going to get a similar level of performances from them. Just on their days, they'll be unbeatable. But if you just average it out throughout the season, there will be minuscule differences between them, and that's how it's always going to be.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question real quick then, right? Because here's the way I think is so the question is, last year we weren't sure where Albon was. Yeah, has Albon kind of proven to you that he is like one of those top level drivers just outside the top tier, basically?
I rated him there only, but for me, and again, the questions are still there because it's just 6 races.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It's look, there are 2 questions whenever a new driver comes in. The question is, first, is he elite? Is he someone who's going to be a future world champion? The next question is, if that's not the case, then he's your solid midfielder. And third is, he doesn't belong in Formula One.
Yeah.
These are the 3 categories they tend to belong to. Now, when it comes to Alex, I always thought, initially I was a bit, I didn't rate him that highly. But once he moved to Williams and his first season alongside Latifi was brilliant. And, you have to remember, Latifi was slightly competitive against George. He was nowhere against Alex. And that kind of led to his departure. Yeah. So there was something there. I think a lot of people, they were, you get caught in when there's too much spotlight on one driver, you tend to ignore the other. That's what happened when Colapinto joined Williams.
Yeah.
The first 2-3 races, Colapinto was right alongside Alex. And that led to a lot of people, instead of rating Colapinto highly, they started underrating Alex. And that's where the problem
is. It is a strange thing we do. Because I was going to say, the way I will view this season is, for me now, after seeing Alex perform alongside Sainz like so far, and just the way Alex has been driving in general. For me, if Sainz beats Alex over the course of the season, that will just tell me that, okay, Sainz is actually just a brilliant driver. He's just, he's not like the Leclerc, George Russell elite, but he's one of the best on the field. And Albon was impressive for kind of holding his own with them more than, oh, well, Albon's just shit then. Because to do that, like, to put it in box perspective, the Oscar of Piastri fan on Twitter, who said to me that Lando Norris is a midfield driver at best. It's like, you do realize by saying that, you're telling me that Oscar is just not that great. Because Oscar is just about beating Lando at the moment.
Yeah, I know.
How do you make that argument?
I've had a few conversations with the same person
Yeah.
regarding the same thing.
It's just illogical.
Yeah.
It's like, George Russell is a terrible driver. Well, then Lewis Hamilton must be absolutely dog shit. Like, you can't, like, how do you make that argument,
Because you're fans. When you become a fan, you leave your logic
well,
part of your brain
I guess we're about to see that with me, aren't we?
Yeah, when it comes to Color Pinto. Yeah, we're going to see that.
Although, to be honest, I already call Gasly dog shit, so it doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah. Although if Gasly beats Colapinto, I will be talking about how Gasly is one of the best drivers on the grid.
No, you're going to say Alpine sabotaged Colapinto.
Oh my God, this is going to be the running thing now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any more, or are we...
Yeah, there are a couple. Okay. Skid Mac. So...
If you don't mind, we'll do this the last one, because I do need to run in 2 minutes.
Yeah, we are done, I think. Okay. So should George Russell not lifting off enough for yellow flag? Carlos Sainz making contact with Lewis have been penalized for... No. Okay. So the two questions is, should George have been penalized? Should Carlos have been penalized for the last lap thing? So first of all, for the George thing, I'll just brief it because I read the document, the FIA document. I know Skidmack, I think he also read it. There's a lot... Actually, Obbs put it out and he said that it's very dangerous the way George drove. So the explanation is, so the explanation that the FIA gave was, in the crux of it, is that George lifted. And he lifted, I think, 25% throttle, something on those lines. When you're doing that, you're basically, it's caution. Mm-hmm. Basically, you're showing that you're taking the foot off the pedal.
It's like when like when you're coming to a, an orange light or whatever.
Street or something.
Yeah, it's like that's the whole thing. It's slow down and prepare to stop, but don't stop, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And again, there is no given metric that you need to slow down your speed by a certain value. And again, look, it's very easy to say that there should be a metric to slow down the speed by a certain value or something. It's not easy to do, especially when you're racing. The key thing is you need to make sure that you are lifting. That's all.
Yeah.
Other than that, it becomes illogical. You can tell a driver that you need to drop your speed by 20%. You cannot drop your speed by 20%. What you can do is you can lift your throttle by 20%.
Yeah,
that is what you can do. That is measurable.
Well, I mean, they could enforce like specific, like a really specific kind of, you have to brake, do this.
Yeah, but it's a single yellow flag, right? It's not even double yellows or a VSC.
This is the thing. I saw a lot of people as well, who, saying, oh, it's dangerous driving. I was like, well, I mean, all the drivers do it all the time. It seems to just be dangerous because it seemed to hamper Max Verstappen's race. That's all of a sudden, that the danger was that Max might not finish on the podium, basically.
Yeah.
Which happened. For me, it's a simple fact of this is another case of, letter of the law versus spirit of the law. There is no spirit of the law. The letter of the law is this, and according to the letter of the law, the interpretation could be that just lifting off is enough, even if you don't slow down.
Yeah.
So tough shit. Like, fixed, as Christian Horner would say, if you don't like it, fix your fucking rules.
Fix your fucking rules. Yeah.
So simple as that.
The second one, by the way, the Carlos Sainz Lewis thing. Please, no. I'm sorry. If you are not even allowed to do that on the last lap, it's not really there was much contact or the cars broke or something happened. It's fine.
My thing with this is it was ambitious. And I get why some people say, should there be a penalty? The problem is there's no way to actually penalise that under the regs unless you go down the route of causing a collision. But,
dangerous driving.
Yeah, but in reality, I mean, their wheels just banged. That was it.
Fine.
So that happens all the time during overtakes. So you can't really argue causing a collision. You could argue, And there is no penalty for lunging unless you've gained a lasting advantage or something. So
You know what's the funny thing? It was Carlos who complained that Lewis moved under braking.
yeah.
And that was what was investigated.
Yeah,
What the
yeah.
fuck are we doing here?
Brilliant.
Like, seriously, are we investigating these things? Yeah. Anyways,
Fantastic. Thank
okay,
you, everybody.
there's one last, then let's go.
Okay.
Let's wrap it up. So it's from Neuro. Do you think the gap in race car between OP, Oscar and Lando is over exaggerated? It took Oscar about 6 laps to overtake Max, and he made a mistake. So basically, he's saying that is the whole thing a bit over
Because
exaggerated?
people are basically saying, like, it took roughly the same amount of laps for both of them to pass. It just seemed like it took Lando longer. I think the reason for that is Lando took more attempts to get past, whereas it took
lost more time.
Yeah. Look, I think it's exaggerated, and I think people just love piling on to Lando. I think he's just an easy target at the minute. I don't want to, I think Oscar played his racecraft perfectly. This is another situation of what we were saying before. Like, the reality here is Lando did a good job, but Oscar did a better job. So can we not just praise Oscar instead of going, oh, well, Oscar did better, so Lando must be shit? It's like, well, no, because the difference isn't huge. It's just Oscar did a better job. So in reality, it's just Oscar did a better job. It's not that Lando did a bad job. It's just that Oscar did a better one. Yeah. Lando still maximized the race.
Anyways, I agree with you. I think, look, I'd say Oscar in general this season and even last, when it comes to wheel thing, he's a bit better. Yeah. Lando isn't at the same. I won't say Lando isn't at the same level as well, because his moves on Kimi and George were brilliant.
Yeah.
So maybe he's got a bit of a mental block when it comes to Max. Yeah. That's it. And
Thank you, everybody.
That's done. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching. It's a bit. It's long. Yeah. We'll make it work.
And here's the Taylor Swift version of our new intro to play us out. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe.
This is the Blatantly Biased Racing Podcast. Lewis is washed. Max is a new